Alright, you and I are about to meet Akabani Maguru, an absolute beast of an S-rank hunter who reached the top using the weakest jobless class. His only goal in life was simple: use the ultimate reward to wipe every single dungeon off the map. He joined the guild for brotherhood. Maguru believed that having allies would keep his sister safe and get them out alive. But the world is brutal to the naive. He wanted them to pay. Just 5 days before the horrific truth came out, everything seemed to be going perfectly. High above Tokyo, in a floating celestial dungeon, Maguru showed the world exactly why he was a living legend. Pulling his blade from a dimensional rift, he tore through the air like purple lightning toward a massive serpent. He used that explosive momentum to sprint right up the beast's scales, coming face to face with the nightmare. Channeling endless lightning magic into his palm, he unleashed a devastating blast that vaporized the creature in a single, earth-shattering strike. The entire guild cheered his insane power. His sister Kana ran over to support him, their bond forged by a blood promise 3 years ago. All of Maguru's strength came from that tragedy. Back then, his parents gave their lives fighting off a pack of wild wolves just so their children could escape. Hearing his father's final roar and his mother's desperate tears, he grabbed Kana's hand and ran, swearing to protect her no matter the cost. He fled far away, and from that moment on, he knew he would never truly be alone. Stick with me, because this hero's heart is about to be tested in the worst way possible. He thanked the guild. They set up camp and started talking about why monsters had suddenly vanished from the lower floors. No matter how hungry he was, the hunter found their supplies absolutely disgusting. But Maguru stayed positive, focusing on the nutrients they needed. He knew that once this dungeon was cleared, they would never have to live like this again. Once the fighting ended, their true wishes would finally be granted. His dream was to delete every dungeon on Earth forever. The guild members listened to his plan with intense focus. 2 weeks later, they finally hit the top floor and came face to face with the boss. A terrifying red dragon greeted them with a roar, unleashing a wall of incinerating dragon fire. Our heroes strategically split up to surround it. The members moved in perfect, lethal coordination. Maguru saw the dragon's guard slip, revealing a patch of missing scales. He focused everything on that weak spot and swung, but a sudden tail whip sent him crashing back. Kana rushed to his side, healing his wounds instantly. Maguru was nearly out of the fight and thanked her for saving his life. He ordered the rear guard to blind the beast while the rest aimed for its throat. After weeks of hell, he finally felt the power of a team. Maguru never had anyone he could truly rely on, but now, everyone risked it all. Before this, he had only ever put his trust in Kana. But right then, he bet his entire life on them. His fusion of blade and magic, a broken skill only a jobless player could use, was his ultimate weapon. He channeled a massive amount of energy into his cold steel, until the blade roared with lightning. He launched his finishing move, burying the sword in the dragon's neck, until it finally stopped moving. Maguru thought they had won. He thought the world was safe. But you and I both know that things never stay peaceful. A sword ripped through his chest. Kana couldn't stop it. Stunned and bleeding, he gasped out a single "why." The red-bearded man smiled, revealing the cold truth. They were never his friends. Their goals were too different. This was a total betrayal. Maguru wanted the dungeons gone, but the others hated that. They didn't want to lose the fame and high status they had spent years building for themselves. Leaving him to bleed out on the floor, the traitor explained that being an S-rank hunter made them gods in society. The second Maguru said he wanted to end the dungeons. They decided it was time to end him instead. He understood their greed, but why hurt Kana? They simply didn't want her getting in the way of their master plan. Fueled by pure rage over his sister's elimination for such a stupid reason, Maguru listened to the hunters mock his idea of a meaningless perfect world. The red-bearded man laughed, saying this is what happens when the jobless play hero. Dying, Maguru realized he had chosen the weakest job of all. Even as a jobless class, he had worked harder than anyone and become stronger than they could imagine. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you and I are about to see exactly how he gets his revenge. Alright, you and I are starting a journey where trust is a death sentence. He swore they would pay for killing Kana. Every single traitor was going down. In his darkest moment, that pure, burning rage became his only light. Suddenly, Maguru snaps awake in a bed. Was it all just a nightmare? Or something much worse? Through tears, the memories hit him. This was real. Every agonizing second of it. A nurse enters for a checkup, and that's when the shock hits. He's in a hospital, trapped in the body of a man named Izumi. The doctor tells him to rest, but Maguru's mind is racing. Why is he here? And how are his wounds already gone? Nothing makes sense. Why is he living another man's life? Now watch this. He sees Kana, and she calls him Muru, his real name. Overjoyed that his sister knows him, he listens as she drops a bombshell. They were both reincarnated into new bodies hundreds of years into the future. She looks identical, but there's a catch. She doesn't remember a single thing about their past life. Maguru has the memories, but his face? Completely unrecognizable from before. This body belonged to Izumi Maguru, a jobless hunter just like he once was. Now, he's seeing fragmented flashes of Izumi's pathetic former life. Kana feels for him, worried about his memory loss and questioning what really happened. She's terrified because his injuries don't look like monster attacks at all. He apologizes to her, and she promises to come back later. Piecing it all together, Maguru finally starts to grasp this twisted and brutal new reality. Back then, Matsubara and 5 other heroes cleared the Sky Dungeon and wished to become masters. Now, they rule their own dungeons as the ultimate enemies of mankind. Only Muru and Kana wanted peace. By becoming dungeon masters, the 6 traitors gained eternal life, surviving for centuries. Fueled by pure hatred, Muru vows they will never be forgiven. Days later, he's already planning his move. Kana thinks he's insane for wanting a dungeon right after being hospitalized. But he doesn't have time to wait. He needs power, and he needs it now. You and I both know those 6 masters won't go down without godlike strength. Kana begs him to stop, desperate to understand why he's pushing himself so hard. He explains that while he's still a bottom-tier hunter in this life, and lacks any real magic or sword skills, he still has his own secret methods. He says sorry to Kana, then drops a hint about his special unemployed method. Suddenly, 2 guys show up, shocked he's even breathing. They mock his resilience while Kana wonders who they are. Oh, he knows them. These are the punks who put the original Izumi in the hospital. It turns out, the former owner was also betrayed inside a dungeon. One thug tells him to keep his mouth shut, saying he's got just enough cash to survive a little longer in this world. Maguru decides to avenge the former owner as thanks for the body. But when he asks for a favor, they jump him. A beefy rank D hunter loses it and charges Maguru with everything he's got. He throws a punch, screaming that a rank F weakling could never touch him. But Maguru is faster. He lands a counter hit with strength that catches the guy totally off guard. When the first guy drops, the other pulls a knife. He refuses to look like a fool and lunges at Maguru with lethal intent. Right then, Maguru realizes this body is way weaker than his old one. But experience wins. He handles the weakling and snatches the dagger out of his hand. He snaps the steel blade with his bare fingers with shocking ease. Terrified of his power, the 2 thugs turn tail and run. Kana is absolutely stunned. Her brother feels like a totally different person now in both his overwhelming strength and his cold demeanor. Maguru looks back. He explains that while his body is weak, he can now cast complex spells with his bare hands. If he can get his stats back, his revenge is guaranteed. To grow properly, he needs to clear every dungeon scattered across the map. Before he takes on those 6 traitors, he's got to hit the grind. Arriving at a rank E dungeon, Maguru apologizes to the guild hunters waiting for him. A rank F taking on a rank E dungeon? Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how this unfolds as the party heads inside. Stick with me, these hunters are about to regret judging our heroes by their levels. They shoot nasty looks at Maguru and Kana before stepping through the portal and entering a dark, jagged cave. Their leader, a guy with a nasty eye scar, grabs a stone and announces that all the loot is for him. Flexing his ego, he asks if anyone dares to disagree while planning out their formation for the upcoming fight. Maguru speaks up, asking why the experience points shouldn't be split equally among the entire party. Kana worries about him provoking strangers, but Maguru isn't backing down. He wants his fair share of the rewards. The leader snaps back, claiming that if he doesn't get the killing blow, the whole mission could go south. He mocks Maguru for being a low-rank F, but our hero calmly notes that everything will be fine if they fight carefully, which absolutely infuriates the guild leader. He lashes out with his sword. He isn't trying to kill Maguru yet, just scaring him into silence. Leveling his blade, he warns Maguru that an unemployed, low-level loser like him shouldn't push his luck. Let's look at this guy. The leader's right-hand man steps in, declaring that inside a dungeon, the boss's word is law, and the weak should just stay quiet. He ignites eerie purple flames to threaten Maguru, but the rest of the guild quickly pulls him back. A boy with glasses begs Maguru to just listen, even if he's desperate for those experience points. Maguru realizes this isn't the place for a fight, while the leader with the massive sword tells him to watch his words. It becomes clear that the leader and his lackey are working together for a bigger goal. They're planning to steal all the loot and experience, taking items that the Hunter Association doesn't even know about. Seeing them eye these rare materials, Maguru concludes that these people are fueled by nothing but pure, disgusting greed. Just then, a pack of wild, raging boars charges out from the shadows at the back of the cave. The leader orders his men forward, and the clumsy, low-level hunters rush in to start the messy skirmish. Meanwhile, the scarred leader just stands back, waiting for the perfect moment to steal the kill and the loot. His partner follows suit, using fire magic to deliver those final, kill-stealing blows. Watch this next part closely. A boar charges Maguru, but he just leaps into the air with magic ready. Soaring right over the beast, he blasts his magic directly into its face from point-blank range. The blast doesn't just kill one boar, it wipes out the entire pack, leaving the greedy leader absolutely stunned by the power. But a survivor lunges out of the smoke, gashing the shocked leader right in his greedy gut. Before the beast can finish him, another burst of Maguru's magic vaporizes the monster instantly. Standing over the wounded man, Maguru coldly tells him to get up and grab his own loot. Still trying to save face, the leader grumbles that he would have been fine without any help from a rookie. Maguru suggests he should leave the group if he's that incompetent, leaving the humiliated leader scrambling to make excuses for what he calls an occasional accident. They keep moving, but the leader is clearly rattled by how powerful Maguru actually is. They finally reach the deepest part of the dungeon where the final boss is waiting for them. Still acting like he's the boss, the arrogant leader orders Maguru to stay put while he and his trusted comrade go in to finish things. Maguru isn't sure what they're plotting, but that scarred hunter is making sure he doesn't follow. The leader promises he'll finish the boss quickly, telling Maguru not to worry about a thing while he does the work. With a final insult, he tells Maguru to just sit there and learn how a real professional gets it done. Despite being told to stay behind, Kana and Maguru push forward anyway, eventually reaching the final room to witness a truly sickening sight. A massive, multi-eyed boar creature is hunched over, greedily devouring other living beings in the center of the room. Thinking only of the massive payday, the leader and his partner launch their assault on the horrific, multi-eyed monster. They unleash their strongest swords and magic. They are trying to show off for the entire team, unaware that their little display of power is about to end very badly for them. As the smoke clears, they realize the beast is untouched and now, the creature is wearing a twisted smile. With one brutal strike, the boss rips the leader's arm clean off, leaving him screaming in a state of pure shock. Then, the boar breathes out a wave of scorching magic that engulfs his companion in flames. Wrapped in flames and screaming in agony, you and I watch as the monster seizes them both to be devoured. Alright, you and I are jumping into a nightmare where hunters become monster food in seconds. Before dying, the greedy leader screams and begs for his life, but it is all in vain. His horrified guild can only watch. Maguru, our main character, remembers just how strangely strong these dungeon monsters have been feeling. The final boss does not fit the association's standard ranking criteria at all. He realizes it is a disguised dungeon, explaining this creature's massive power. Without wasting a second, he and Kana get ready for a brutal, uphill battle. The others are too scared to fight, but Maguru draws his sword, ready to end this. These F-rank hunters are shocked. Little do they know, Maguru knows the truth about this place. This monster is C rank, not E. He orders the guild to stay silent while he starts the fight. Energy surges as he charges at top speed, promising himself he will never trust anyone ever again. Maguru goes in alone, hitting the beast with a flurry of rapid sword strikes. After the slashes, he blasts freezing magic from his palm, dealing heavy damage to the disgusting boar. But the beast, covered in tusks and eyes, starts gathering its own magic to strike back. It fires a spell, but Maguru dodges effortlessly and hits back with another powerful enchantment. The magic causes a massive explosion, but it does not do as much damage as he wanted. Now pay attention, because Maguru realizes he cannot win with one hit at his current level. He quickly dodges those sharp tusks and prepares a new plan. He leaps into the air to dodge a devastating blow. He needs to stop its movement. From above, Maguru slashes the boar's knee, making it scream in pain. He moves to the next knee, delivering a second cut that sends the monster crashing down. With the beast pinned, he realizes his previous magic can be used as a literal rocket booster. He blasts magic downward, and the force sends him flying high above the monster. Reaching the cave ceiling, he aims a powerful spell directly at the massive stalactites above. Giant ice spikes rain down, crushing the boar's head and ending the monster for good. When the monster finally falls, fulfilling his promise, the entire guild is left in total shock. A brilliant blue light appears, and they move closer to see what is happening. Okay, I know what you are thinking, his attributes just jumped by 5 points. Experience really is the best perk for an unemployed guy. Kana realizes her brother has changed. Maguru is startled when she notices he's like a different person. She tells him not to lie, because no one gets this strong in such a short time. She is convinced he was hiding his true power from the very beginning. She asks why he would keep secrets from his friends. He realizes she hasn't found his biggest secret yet, so he pats her head. He tells her he was training in secret to keep her safe. Maguru swears to never let his past life repeat. He tells them to report to the association. They eventually arrive at the Hunter Association base located in Shinjuku. The secretary cannot believe that a C-rank boss was defeated by an unemployed person who just outclassed 2 D-rank adventurers. But Kana stands her ground, telling them she saw the whole thing herself. The secretary calls the story absurd, accusing them of stabbing the adventurers in the back. The association clearly hates the idea of an unemployed person taking down a boss alone. Kana screams that they would never do that and demands they check the facts. Maguru explains the hunters died because they let their guard down for just 1 second. He tells the secretaries they are being disrespectful to the memory of the dead hunters. Embarrassed, the secretaries quickly apologize, claiming they didn't mean it that way. Maguru challenges them to remember the hunters' hard work if they still doubt his story. Maguru leaves the premises and runs into the association head. The branch chief stares him down with a strange intensity while his secretary tries to get his attention. The chief seems to recognize the young man. Maguru wonders who that man was. Kana asks if it was okay to leave the association like that, but he truly doesn't care about getting credit for his heroic deeds. Wait for it. Alright, stick with me as Kana realizes this guy is actually her old neighbor, the same Izumi Maguru from her past. Later, resting in bed, Izumi browses a modern smartphone, shocked by how much technology evolved while he was gone until a notification hits. Matsubara was heading to Japan. Seeing that face again sent Izumi into a massive rage. He acted excited, but the thought of their reunion made his blood boil. Meanwhile, in China, Matsubara heard the other masters were finally slowing down. After centuries of waiting, his time had arrived. His worried butler begged him to be extremely cautious before stepping out of the room, but Matsubara, overflowing with excessive confidence, laughed it off. As one of the legendary 6 heroes, he promised his butler he would handle every single problem personally. Hundreds of years ago, Matsubara managed an S-rank dungeon and used that power to conquer all of China. Now, he wanted more territory. He needed Japan before the other heroes could strike him down. From his car, he ordered his troops to mobilize instantly, threatening his subordinates with death if they failed. Back at the Hunter Association, Izumi Maguru tried recruiting new members, but his F rank and that weird unemployed class made the whole process an absolute disaster. As an adventurer, he had to clear high-level dungeons to boost his status. To find anything good, he first had to rank up. Kana wondered how he would ever rank up if he couldn't even get clearing missions. While his sister fumed over the hypocrisy, the branch chief appeared, apologizing for how rudely his employees had acted. Now pay attention, the chief offers a special test to jumpstart his power level. He explained that monthly skill exams in the underground facility allowed talented hunters to skip the grind and rank up fast. It was a very brutal test. The chief argued there was no harm in trying because if Maguru failed, he could always just fulfill the normal rank-up requirements later. Since there was nothing to lose despite the low pass rate, Izumi decided to take the gamble. An employee asked the chief why he suggested it, since absolutely nobody had ever passed that exam before. The chief simply smiled, declaring that Izumi Maguru would be the very first to succeed. 3 days later, Izumi and the others entered the facility. The test looked deceptively simple. The goal was simple: defeat every monster in the room. These mana-infused stone monsters felt pain, but they were impossible to kill, even with a fatal strike to the heart. Victory meant turning them to dust. With the rules set, the instructor asked for the first brave volunteer. Suddenly, a knight in heavy armor stepped forward. As he approached the stone, a massive blue snake lunged out. The knight roared, unleashing a powerful sword strike. But the scales were too tough for his blade. In a flash, the giant serpent struck back, slamming the knight against the cold wall. I know what you're thinking. How can an F-ranker win when an A-rank beast just crushed a pro? The blind instructor then asked if there were any more candidates brave enough to step forward. Izumi Maguru raised his hand, shocking his sister and the other adventurers as he stepped into the combat room. Weapon ready, he faced a white lion already charging a massive fireball in its throat. Maguru leaped past the flames. A claw swiped at him, but he moved with blinding speed, parrying the beast's massive fangs. He knew a single scratch meant failure. This monster was just too strong and too fast. But Izumi didn't hesitate, lunging forward. After slicing the beast's paw, the furious lion launched another blast of fire directly at him. Maguru triggered a special ocular ability, allowing him to see every single one of his opponent's weak points. Since conquering that last dungeon, his attributes had skyrocketed, allowing him to perform some truly mind-blowing physical feats. Using his weapon, he delivered multiple slashes at the fire magic, dissipating the flames with remarkable ease. Thanks to his boosted magic speed, Maguru could now dart across the arena with some truly surprising agility. As the lion prepares another blast, Maguru charges purple magic in his palm. Trust me, you're about to see how broken his class is. Stick with me, we're watching our main character become absolutely godlike. He slams his magic head-on into the lion's lethal attack, obliterating the beast in a single, epic instant. A massive explosion erupts from the clash, and Izumi Maguru stands tall as the winner of the test. Minutes later, he finally receives his official hunter card. His sister, Kana, is beaming with happiness because he crushed the special exam. It turns out Maguru was the first and only candidate to actually be approved. However, our protagonist has no clue he was the only one, falling for the branch chief's clever lie. Suddenly, men in suits and dark shades approach. They recognize Izumi Maguru and demand he comes along, even though he has never seen them. Frightened, Kana begs him to return quickly, looking visibly worried. To assure her he will be back, he hands her a special talisman. His sister is clearly reluctant to let him go. She cries out in pure fear for him. After a mysterious ride, they arrive at a suspicious-looking underground location. Now watch this part closely. The door opens, and Izumi demands to know why they brought him here. A bearded old man just laughs, claiming the reason for his arrival does not really matter that much. Then, he reveals a briefcase stuffed with cash, intending to become our hero's new official sponsor. The old man's men watched him during the special Duik. Maguru can see millions of yen in that case. Then he offers him 100 million yen monthly. He wants Izumi as his bodyguard, explaining that they represent a massive, secret organization with deep reach. They handle all kinds of shady services. Our main character realizes the old man won't spill any more secrets until he takes the bribe. To carry out his deep revenge against the 6 heroes, Maguru needs time and a lot of money. He needs cash more than anything, but he refuses to be anyone's puppet. Our hero turns his back, coldly stating that he won't accept any sponsorship at this moment. The door stays locked. The thugs announce that since he declined the deal, he isn't leaving this place alive. One subordinate lunges with a punch that seems painfully slow to Izumi's high-speed perception, but to his shock, the strike lands squarely on his stomach with incredible force. He is stunned by the power. The thug explains that this room has a dangerously low amount of oxygen. He explains the previous hallway had air, but this specific room was designed to be a vacuum. No one can breathe here unless they are wearing a magical golden ring to protect themselves. You and I both saw it coming. He finally realizes that this entire meeting was a setup, and he has walked straight into a lethal trap. Still, he declares they have only slowed him down and he can still fight his way out. The enemy calls him a stubborn idiot who just doesn't know when to quit. But this time, our protagonist finally lands a massive punch right on his face. The room goes silent in shock. Another thug pulls out a jagged dagger to attack Maguru. With his senses dulled, he keeps his distance and delivers a powerful kick to the armed man. Strategizing mid-fight, he follows up that kick with a finishing punch to take the enemy down. The remaining thugs charge him all at once, but the protagonist wipes them all out in seconds. Even if they were weak, the boss did not expect him to take down 6 men so easily. They are no match for Maguru. He rips off his shirt, revealing his absolutely massive, muscular physique. Entering a total berserk rage, the giant grabs an axe as veins bulge all over his body. He strikes the ground hard, but our hero quickly dodges the blow. Maguru knows the berserker class trades intelligence and speed for raw, overwhelming physical strength. He saw an elite berserker in his past life, and knows exactly how they work. Our hero uses the walls to bounce around, evading the enemy's heavy but totally predictable attacks. He knows a berserker's main weakness is their incredibly low resistance to magical attacks. They are no match for his unemployed class, which boosts his mobility and magical strike power. Maguru unleashes a devastating burst of magic at the enraged enemy, sending the monster crashing to the floor. The only downside is the massive amount of mana he just used. The old man applauds, saying he expected a great show from such a talented young hunter. Maguru is completely done with the games and orders the old man to open that door immediately. And that is the moment you and I realize his sister is in danger. The old man shows him a camera where Kana is gagged and kidnapped. Alright, you and I are about to see just how far Maguru will go for family. Seeing that the old man's impulsive thugs had been the ones handling all the dirty work, Maguru felt his blood boil with pure fury when he saw those thugs surrounding his sister while she screamed for help. The sight of that little girl desperately begging for help left him deeply shaken and unsure of what to do. The subordinates just laughed, claiming their boss gave them the green light to do whatever they wanted, and they planned to enjoy every second with Kana. As they moved in, the girl screamed at the top of her lungs for them to stop. Suddenly, Kana triggered a magic circle, blasting the attackers back and breaking free from her restraints. She fought back against the enemies, noticing her brother's amulet. In that instant, she realized Maguru Izumi had just saved her life. The old man froze in shock, watching the girl single-handedly take down his entire squad of thugs. He revealed he had seen this coming, crafting an amulet from loot found in a disguised dungeon. He explained that this magical item, forged with rare stones, would trigger remotely thanks to a device he built to detect whenever Kana was in danger. He bragged that the amulet was as effective as any alchemist's work, and creating a cheap copy was an easy task for him. After the failed ambush, the old man finally opened the door to let Maguru inside. The young hunter immediately demanded to know why he was being hunted in the first place. The eccentric old man claimed it was all just for a simple examination. Maguru pressed harder, asking why he'd target a hunter like him who was just trying to live a quiet and honest life. The man replied that he needed more strong warriors, and was gathering talented hunters for a certain mysterious person. Maguru drew his sword, pointing it directly at the man's throat while demanding that he speak the name right now. Now watch this part carefully. Under the threat of death, the old man spills everything, revealing the former hero Matsubara Moshi is the one pulling the strings. Petrified and completely cornered, the old man started to panic. He swore he didn't know the hero's true motive. Maguru finally understood and warned the old man to never lay a finger on Kana or him again. To make sure the lesson was remembered, he left a small scar on the man's face before finally walking out the door. Maguru rushed home, desperately checking if Kana was okay. The girl hugged her brother tight, assuring him she wasn't hurt. Maguru apologized for leaving her alone, even though he'd given her the protective amulet. Kana asked if they should report the whole thing to the police. Maguru explained that since Matsubara was involved, the police would be totally powerless. Kana was shocked to hear one of the famous six was behind this. He told her to pack up immediately because they had to find a new home. Living alone was just too dangerous now. He insisted the move happen immediately and that she stay at his place until they found something new. Kana felt a bit shy about it, but she mentioned he only had one double bed. "You and I know he's just being a protective brother," assuring her that there is no problem at all since it is natural for family to stay together. In the end, she didn't mind being close to him. Meanwhile, back at the base where the old man was hiding, the former hero Matsubara Moshi was absolutely livid seeing his henchmen wiped out. The old man knelt, begging for forgiveness for failing the mission. Matsubara grabbed him by the hair, demanding to know every detail about this mysterious hunter. The old man stuttered that his name was Izumi Maguru, a total nobody. But hearing that name triggered a memory, causing the hero to drop the old man right onto the cold floor. The dungeon master suddenly remembered Maguru as that guy who was freakishly strong for no reason despite being totally unemployed. Normally, he would have dealt with a threat like this in person. Instead, he decided to investigate Maguru thoroughly, vowing to learn every single secret he had. The next morning, Kana woke up in their shared bed and tried to wake him up. When he didn't budge, she put on her boots and stepped outside. She saw strange purple magic swirling in the air. Maguru woke up and was shocked to see a dungeon portal appearing right in their front yard. Judging by the mana, this was likely a dangerous rank C dungeon. He told Kana to stay back, but she refused to let him go in alone. "Trust me, you and I are about to see them clear this dungeon together." Some time passes as they clear out the monsters, but Kana feels like a total burden to the team. "Alright, stick with me, because this is the moment our hero asks her to unleash the legendary abyss magic." She is shaking with doubt, convinced that mastering such high-level magic is just impossible for her. After all, only the legendary healer Kana from 100 years ago could ever control the abyss. To her, she is just a low-tier cleric, and the gap between them feels like a mountain. But Izumi sees right through it, determined to help his sister recover every single one of her memories. Suddenly, a dog-like monster lunges at them, catching the two of them off guard. Izumi declares that someone else, besides the legendary Kana, can reach that power, and he freezes the beast with magic before shattering it with a precise kick. He explains to his sister that being unemployed actually means having the total freedom to do anything. Even as a shadow of the original heroine, Kana is still capable of using abyss magic. Having no idea her brother was so versatile, she finally feels motivated. Izumi keeps pushing her forward, telling her she is capable of doing exactly what he does. Still, Kana keeps putting herself down, calling him special while she is just an ordinary girl. Izumi breaks it down for her. She just needs to visualize the result and gather the components. Once a technique is carved into your soul, it is yours. She has already mastered the basic parts. She just needs to believe. Seeing his confidence, Kana finally decides to give it a real shot. He suggests she doesn't need to build some massive, complicated spell from scratch, but instead, she should just stack several simple spells on top of each other. Just as Izumi warns her about more wild dogs, Kana focuses and conjures the abyss magic. A green energy blast traps 3 dogs instantly. She can't believe she actually pulled it off. Izumi congratulates her and offers to teach her strength and adjustment next. Kana thinks those difficult spells are absurd, but she still decides to give it a try. Now pay attention, because the final boss just showed up, and this thing is massive. It lunges with a heavy strike, but Izumi is way too fast, dodging to the side with ease. The second spell she learns from Izumi is Strength. It is like Abyss, but it buffs his attributes instead of draining them. She casts it on Izumi, who starts glowing with intense light as his speed goes through the roof. Approaching the giant beast, Izumi slams his hand into the ground and conjures a massive fire spell. Flames climb the creature, and it is defeated right at that moment. Finally, Kana realizes she isn't useless together. They make a pretty legendary team. Even the unemployed hero is surprised. That fight was a breeze thanks to her support. But something feels off. Kana's stats should have leveled up after clearing the dungeon, but they didn't. Suddenly, a swirling vortex of energy opens up both an exit and a portal at the same time. Kana stares at the strange phenomenon, having never seen anything like this in her life. You saw that too, right? This isn't a normal exit, it's an incredibly rare double dungeon. He warns her the mana here is denser, and the monsters are way deadlier rank B territory. To Kana, a rank B dungeon is basically a natural disaster, like a meteor hitting the earth. She thinks it is way too risky, even for Izumi, and begs him to just turn back now. But Izumi is confident. With her buffs backing him up, he knows they can handle the challenge. He steps into the portal, but disaster strikes. A massive crater opens up, separating the two of them. Giant rocks start raining down, and he desperately tries to reach her before they are crushed. He screams out in pure agony, terrified that Kana has been buried alive under the heavy rubble. He starts smashing the boulders with everything he has, and finally, he hears her calling for help. She is pinned down by the rocks, but she is alive. He quickly pulls her out of the wreckage. Kana admits she only survived because of that adjustment magic he just finished teaching her. After a hug of relief, Izumi is just immensely happy he taught her the spell that increased her attributes and ultimately saved her from that disaster. But he is suspicious. That sudden collapse didn't feel natural, it felt like magic. He starts to wonder if there is someone else lurking in the shadows of this dungeon with them. So you and I are entering that second dungeon now, where the monsters are going to be considerably more difficult than anything they faced before. Alright, you and I are about to see Izumi's stats explode after he teaches Kana those powerful spells. His power is rising, but he knows he is still miles away from getting revenge on those heroes. Kana notices that he seems really anxious about something. Izumi just plays it off, claiming he is just hyped for the rewards waiting inside the boss room. They march toward the boss room, believing their teamwork makes them invincible. Finally, the heavy doors swing wide to reveal a terrifying, three-headed Cerberus waiting for them. The massive three-headed dog lunges forward, ready to unleash its deadly magic spells. Our hero Izumi asks Kana for a shield. She drops 2 buffs on him, and he charges straight at the beast. He slips past the first strike, scaling the giant Cerberus to stare down all 3 heads at once. Giant claws nearly tear him apart, but he dodges at the very last second and manages to retreat. The beast leaves a scratch on his face, proving its boss rank. But Izumi does not flinch, he keeps moving. He realizes that even the toughest beasts have a weak spot, usually right at the throat. Izumi hurls his dagger, but the monster snaps its jaws shut, shattering his weapon instantly. Now watch this. Izumi realizes that to beat this monster, he has to be even faster than its reactions. The enemy is strong, sure, but Izumi knows Kana's buffs give him the edge he needs to win. In this world, every top hunter has to master at least one element, or the powers of light. But since Izumi is technically unemployed, he has got the rare gift of using every single element. Pumping mana and elements into his body, Izumi blasts forward, effortlessly dancing around the creature's strikes. By rubbing earth and wind magic together, he creates pure plasma, preparing for one final strike. 2 blinding flashes of plasma slice through the air, decapitating all 3 heads at once. The giant dungeon boss collapses, totally erased in one single, crushing blow. Immediately, his stats hit a brand new peak, and the dungeon clear rewards manifest. He scores a card for repeatable rank C dungeons but keeps it hidden from Kana while playing it cool. From the shadows, a mysterious man watches the whole thing, realizing Izumi is way stronger than he expected. This mercenary was hired by a man named Matsubara, who is desperate to investigate every detail about the boy. He reports back that Izumi is high level, especially after clearing a double dungeon built by a former hero. No regular unemployed person should have the skills to crawl out of a death trap like that alive. The mercenary notes that Izumi fights like a veteran, hinting at a dark past despite his young age. Listen closely, the mercenary is sure Izumi can reach rank A, but he just found a glaring, fatal weakness. If Matsubara exploits this flaw, Izumi will end up weaker than a lowly rank E hunter. The dungeon master smirks at his own genius. He hands the mercenary a briefcase overflowing with even more cash than they originally agreed on. It is the final payment for this job and a massive advance for the next hit. They are paying him to kill Izumi. To a great rank, a fighter like Ido, it is easy money. Matsubara hands over a legendary sword. The mercenary hesitates for a second before his greed finally wins out. He takes the blade with a wicked grin. Meanwhile, back at home, Izumi stares at his new dungeon ticket. He has never seen an item like this. He wonders how it works while keeping it from his sister. He figures a rank C dungeon should be a total walk in the park at his current level. He focuses his mana and activates the item, instantly getting teleported to a weird island he has never seen. The exit is gone. He is stuck here until the boss falls. Suddenly, a system message announces his first daily mission. The count is 100. Izumi is stunned as an army of monsters starts swarming toward him. It is going to be a long day. He starts hacking through the island monsters, including some massive crabs. In no time at all, he hits the final kill count and completes the daily mission. He is exhausted, but the ground starts shaking as a much bigger threat begins to emerge. The earth cracks open to reveal a massive lobster with a rock-hard shell. This is definitely the boss. But hey, it is just a rank C boss. At his current power level, this should be simple. Izumi conjures a massive fire whirlwind, blasting it forward and turning the lobster into a seafood buffet. And that's a wrap. Trust me, you and I are going to see that health potion save his life soon. Alright, you and I are about to watch him disintegrate as he drinks a potion that sends him back home while Kana sleeps soundly. To his surprise, the dungeon ticket stays in his hand. Over at the association, everyone is staring at Maguru, and he has no clue why. Kana explains he is just the unemployed guy who crushed the special exam, which gets everyone in the building talking. The two siblings are assigned a special mission to find Saito and clear a dungeon. Saito is actually looking for him because the young man really caught everyone's eye during the trials. Maguru accepts because Saito wants to talk. When they meet, the high-ranking hero is actually impressed and acknowledges his raw power. Two other members tag along just to fill the party quota, but they basically stay in the background. Maguru and Saito start working together, tearing through the dungeon monsters like it is absolutely nothing. Maguru realizes Saito is legendary, ranked second only to the 6 heroes who rule this entire world. Suddenly, a stray lizard leaps out to attack, but Maguru incinerates it instantly. Watching this, Saito realizes the rumors about this rookie's strength are definitely more than just talk. Seeing him fight up close, Saito finally grasps his true potential. With a dark grin, Saito thinks someone this gifted could probably solo a high-level dungeon like this alone. He tells Maguru that the team will handle the loot collection while the kid does all the heavy lifting. Maguru does not suspect a thing, just happy for the experience bonus he gets for teaming up with an A-rank hero. While mowing down more monsters, Maguru asks Saito why he actually wanted a rookie like him on his team. The elite hero just gives a cold, mysterious smile and suddenly lunges at the protagonist with his special blade. Now pay attention, this is where the betrayal hits. Saito reveals he is here to kill him, but Maguru's reflexes are insane, and he barely dodges the fatal strike. The other teammates are absolutely horrified by Saito's actions. Saito tells them to shut up before slashing one of their legs, annoyed he did not kill these minor obstacles first. Without even blinking, he ruthlessly executes the rest of his party. He says he has no time to waste and needs to end Maguru as fast as humanly possible. With a terrifying aura, Saito advances. Maguru pushes Kana back, telling her to stay safe while he handles this monster alone. Maguru realizes the stakes and admits to himself that he has never faced a duel this serious in his life. Standing his ground, he charges energy into his fist. This fight is necessary to finally achieve his revenge. He fires a blast of purple magic at Saito, triggering a massive mana explosion that rocks the entire area. But to his horror, the villain walks out of the smoke completely unharmed. Okay, I know what you are thinking, but Saito calmly lights a cigarette and explains he is just following orders from Matsubara. He tells Maguru not to take it personally, then charges forward with precise sword strikes in an intense duel. Saito reveals that Matsubara has a very specific and peculiar interest in Maguru, mainly because he is bothered by how fast the young man is growing. Suddenly, Saito vanishes and kicks Maguru in the gut. The blow lands hard, and our hero collapses to the ground, weakened. All the fatigue from the journey is finally starting to weigh him down. He finally sees the trap Saito let him waste all his energy on the monsters on purpose until now. Despite the exhaustion, Maguru refuses to die. He has to protect Kana, and won't let the tragedies of the past repeat ever again. He channels an insane inner power and rushes Saito with speed that actually starts to make the high-level hero look worried. In a blur, Maguru moves behind his enemy in an instant before he can react. Saito tries to react, but the protagonist is way faster, landing a punch that sends him crashing down. Saito realizes the boy is getting stronger every second, and he can't let this continue. Reaching for a desperate backup plan, he grabs Kana and presses his sword against her throat. He knew he might need this leverage. Saito knows Kana is the only weakness Maguru has, so he orders the boy to surrender, or she gets eliminated. If he tries to move, she is dead. Maguru is backed into a corner with absolutely no room to move. He is paralyzed with indecision, and his extreme exhaustion is making it impossible for him to think clearly right now. He pulls out a potion to stake everything on it. Trust me, you and I are about to see if he can reclaim his peak strength. Alright, you and I are jumping right into the action as Maguru chugs a yellow potion and hits insane speeds. One perfectly timed kick later, and Sato's blade is sent flying across the room. He blurs behind the enemy in a heartbeat. Maguru makes it clear that underestimating him was a fatal mistake as he keeps the pressure on. Seizing the moment, Maguru fires a magic blast point-blank into Sato's head, finishing him off for good. A relieved Kana immediately starts channeling healing magic to save their teammates who were caught in the crossfire. They are still breathing, but she knows they need a real hospital, and they need it right now. Maguru hesitates, should they escape immediately, or should he finish clearing this dungeon before they hit the exit? It would be a breeze anyway, especially with that legendary sword he just looted off his fallen foe. He felt a weird vibe when Saito held it, but now, nothing. Then he enters the boss room to face a massive, crystal-headed lizard. Not wanting to waste another second, he swings the stolen blade and literally splits the beast in two. Down goes the boss, and Maguru nets 50 points to every single attribute. Now, look closely here. Maguru grabs the crest of duty, but then notices a mysterious mark appearing on his palm. Back at the Hunter Association, the secretaries are staring at their screens in total disbelief. They cannot wrap their heads around a monster actually taking down an A-rank hunter like Saito. Maguru just plays it cool, reminding them that hunters die in dungeons all the time. He stops to think. He chooses to bury the truth about Saito, spinning a lie that perfectly matches what the two survivors went through. Even so, the association staff is having a hard time buying it. Saito was a legend, famous for his insane strength and talent. This guy soloed top-tier dungeons and even won the Dragon Lord Festival. But the secretary won't let it go. When she suggests someone from the party might have backstabbed Saito, Maguru hits her with a terrifying, intimidating glare. To shut her down, Maguru asks her why she would even think that. Does she really believe anyone there had the guts to do it? Totally shaken, she apologizes. She knows deep down that nobody in that room was strong enough to kill Saito. Little does she know about the magic Maguru used to end him. Claiming he is exhausted, Maguru finally leaves the building with Kana. His sister wants to come clean, but he shuts that down. Calling the cops would just turn this into a nightmare. When she asks for the real truth, he lies, saying Saito brought his death on his own head. Besides, with the dungeon gone, there is zero evidence left for any investigation to find. But the real reason he is playing it this way? Maguru hates the spotlight, and you and I know he is already being watched by Matsubara after that exam. Right now, all he wants is to avoid any extra drama. His focus is purely on revenge. Suddenly, a massive headache hits him, making Kana panic. He heads to bed and takes some meds, thinking this is just the price of taking a life. He had never killed before, but in that moment, he felt like he had no other choice. He has never felt this sick. Taking a life is heavy, but he has to get over it. His next target? The 6 heroes. Kana brings him some hot soup since he can't keep his meds down. He finishes it and finally starts recovering. Feeling better, Maguru realizes Kana is a natural-born healer. She probably subconsciously pumped that soup full of healing magic just to help him out. She can tell that the weight of killing Saito is still eating away at him. She tells him it was not his fault, he was just protecting them. He shouldn't beat himself up. He does not want her to worry, but her kindness means everything to him. Kana spots the mark on his palm. Maguru explains it just appeared, but now it seems like it is fading away. Elsewhere, Matsubara is feeling the guilt of sending Saito into that mess. Saito was his right-hand man, the one who helped him dominate Japan. Trust me, things are about to get messy. Let us dive into the story of Japan's most elite mercenary. Saito was the ultimate killer, so his defeat by young Izumi Maguru sent shockwaves through Matsubara. He had to know who exactly is this kid. Honestly, Maguru's past did not matter. Matsubara just knew he could not leave a threat like that walking around freely. He was also paranoid that Saito might have blabbed about him being the mastermind behind the scenes. Before things spiraled, Matsubara decided to finish Maguru, just like he had killed that man hundreds of years ago. Meanwhile, Maguru woke up to a shock. The mysterious mark on his hand had completely vanished. Kana woke up too, asking if he was feeling better. He said he was fine, but looking at Kana, he worried. She was totally inexperienced, and he wondered if bringing her along was the right call. He grabbed the dungeon ticket. Then, he asked his sister to tag along. Kana was blindsided, confused why he would invite her to a dangerous dungeon right now. She thought he was too sick to fight, but Maguru dropped a bombshell. He was not fighting, she was. After teleporting in, Maguru began her brutal training. If she wanted to survive, she had to learn. It was a rough day for the girl, struggling to stay safe while burning through her magic. Exhausted but determined, Kana managed to clear the dungeon quest. Her rewards? A powerful amulet that prevents instant death and a B-rank dungeon ticket. Now watch this. Maguru sees the rewards and gets hyped. That amulet was broken. It could literally cancel out any attack that would normally kill you. Maguru knew this item would be a lifesaver very soon. Later, the pair returned to the Hunter Association, only to find out the sector chief wanted a word. The chief did not play games. He knew Maguru was the one who took down Saito. He was not buying the monster story. An A-rank hunter does not just get wiped out by some random beast. Dark rumors were already spreading about Saito's death, and all the evidence pointed straight at our main character. But the chief was not angry. He figured Saito probably deserved it and attacked first. To him, this proved Maguru had insane talent, the kind that completely ignores the difference in ranks. Kana tried to play it off, saying the chief was tripping. Maguru was just an unemployed loser, right? But get this. The chief had heard legends of an unemployed hero from centuries ago. He wondered if Maguru was his literal reincarnation. Still, he admitted that world-class strength could just appear in anyone. Maguru realized the chief was sharp. He did not care about Saito, he just wanted Maguru's power. Since Maguru was clearly a beast, the chief had a special, high-stakes request for him. The mission was located deep in the Shibuya Hunter Association territory. He wanted Maguru to help their neighbors conquer a brand new dungeon. It was a dangerous A-rank threat, and the local association was gathering their heaviest hitters. They were nervous, specifically asking for Maguru to back them up. Kana was thrilled to join the main squad, since a high-rank mission like this was a huge deal. Maguru reassured her. Then they both apologized to the rest of the team for the wait. 3 women were already there, waiting for the new reinforcements. Nomi Sakuragi, the knight, was not impressed. She felt their team could have handled it alone, but her teammates, Mihara and Omichi, were actually glad to see some help. Nomi told them to stay out of her way, then demanded their ranks. Kana said D-rank cleric, and Maguru admitted he was D-rank unemployed. Seeing their low ranks, the knight told them to just hide behind her. She mocked Maguru, saying his unemployed class was trash no matter his skills. She warned him that one distraction inside would get him killed. Mihara thought Nomi was being way too aggressive. Feeling the tension, Kana immediately stepped closer to Maguru. Stick with me, because Nomi's arrogance might just lead to a disaster. You and I are about to see that when tragedy strikes, the pain ripples far beyond just one person. Nozomi's warning came from a place of genuine worry, but Maguru and Kana could already feel the atmosphere shifting. A grim storm was brewing, and it was clear things were about to get ugly. Our hero turned to Kana with soft, reassuring words, pushing her to keep moving. He promised her she was strong and that she should trust in him, not the doubts of the team. The second they stepped inside the dungeon, a massive, terrifying minotaur blocked their path. Without a second of hesitation, Omichi charged, swinging her giant axe to deliver a bone-crushing blow. The beast hit the dirt hard, and Mihara the mage didn't waste a heartbeat before unleashing a fire spell. Nozomi advanced to finish the creature, while Mihara noted that this A-rank dungeon felt suspiciously like a B-rank one. The monsters were tough, sure, but as long as they kept their formation, they could handle the heat. They decided to push deeper to find the next target, only to realize Maguru and Kana were still trailing right behind them. The girls shoved them to the rear as a literal herd of minotaurs appeared, turning the mission deadly. Even the veteran hunters started backing away, overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. Nozomi's heart sank. She really thought this was the end. But watch closely, this is where Maguru and his sister Kana finally get serious. The main character launched a brutal kick and a precision slash, ending the fight in a single, blurry instant. The rest of the group stood frozen. They definitely didn't expect the reinforcements to be this insane. Nozomi, who'd written him off as weak, was floored. She couldn't even process the power she just saw. Suddenly, Mihara screamed a warning as 2 minotaurs lunged at Nozomi from the shadows. The knight was inches away from a lethal strike, but a shimmering magic shield snapped into existence, blocking the attack. Maguru had saved her just in time. After being saved and emerging unscathed, Nozomi finally realized the true scale of Maguru's strength. The knight then apologized, admitting she genuinely misjudged the two because of their profession and low rank. Kana didn't care about the sorries, though. To her, being a hunter meant dancing on the edge of death daily. To Maguru, Nozomi's attempt to keep them safe had clearly come from a place of kindness. Nozomi turned bright red. It had been years since anyone had actually given her a sincere compliment like that. With the team finally in sync, they moved forward, watching each other's backs as they hunted for the exit. 2 hours in, and with Kana's insane buffs active, the knight Nozomi was tearing through monsters like they were nothing. Nozomi watched them and began to wonder who they really were and what their relationship was. They'd been fighting for what felt like forever. But strangely, the final boss room was nowhere to be found. Something was wrong. They began to suspect this dungeon was a lot more complicated than the guild records said. Nozomi, the knight, figured the high difficulty was just because it was their first A-rank dungeon, but Maguru pointed to a small mark he'd carved into the stone wall earlier. The truth hit them hard. You and I both know that look, they were walking in circles this whole time. It was bizarre. Maguru knew for a fact they hadn't passed any branching paths. He decided to take charge. Placing his hand against the cold wall, he felt a faint vibration and uncovered a secret passage. Nozomi was stunned. How could he find a hidden path that the pros had completely missed? Maguru explained that many higher-ranked dungeons are filled with these kinds of sneaky tricks. It was a specialized barrier enigma. Unless you solved the hidden riddle, you'd be trapped in a loop, never reaching the final boss. The others were skeptical. How did a rookie know so much about advanced dungeon mechanics? He told them it was obvious, but inside, he remembered the hell he endured in his past life. That trauma helped him master a refined mana-sensing technique to feel out hollow spaces behind these solid walls. To the group, he just played it cool, claiming he'd read about it in some old book. Nozomi stepped to the very front to handle the boss's defense, while Hikari stayed in the back to keep Kana protected. An A-rank boss was definitely no joke, but Maguru already had a winning strategy ready to go. The knight asked if he was ready. He nodded. And trust me, you and I are going to love what happens next. Suddenly, a massive, Bearded Minotaur King emerged, roaring in pure rage. Stick with me, you and I are about to watch this supposed D-rank barely dodge a blow from a literal nightmare. Maguru quickly realizes this monster is on another level, and screams for Nozomi to hold her position for now. But Nozomi steps up anyway, raising her shield to block only for the Minotaur's crushing blow to shatter it instantly. With her protection gone, she takes the full force of the impact and goes flying backward from the strike. The other girls watch in horror, unable to believe an attack actually broke through Nozomi's legendary shield defense. A knight's armor just isn't built like a specialized tank, making this close-range battle with an A-rank boss suicidal. Sensing the danger, Maguru orders Sakura to get the badly wounded Nozomi out of the line of fire immediately. He tells his sister Kana to focus on healing the knight while he steps up to face the boss alone. He charges toward the armored bull, which immediately responds by hurling its massive weapon straight at his head. Maguru narrowly dodges, knowing that even a single graze from that axe would mean instant death for him. The girls are in serious danger, and he's going to have to give everything just to survive. Now pay attention, this is where we see if he can find that one opening. Just as the boss winds up for another massive swing, Maguru finally spots the perfect chance to strike back. He unleashes his ice magic, slamming the ground and summoning jagged frozen spikes that tear into the Minotaur's flesh. But even after taking that direct magic hit, the massive monster somehow stays standing on its feet. He notices its defense is a weak point despite that raw strength, so he dodges a blow and leaps onto the beast's weapon to sprint across it. After a quick sprint, he takes a massive leap into the air. High in the air, he targets the boss's head while the creature leaves itself wide open for a counterattack. As long as he has his death prevention amulet active, he knows he can survive at least one fatal mistake. He declares this the final strike, drawing Saito's sword and delivering a massive top-to-bottom vertical slash. The blade cuts through the beast's entire body, and for a second, Maguru feels a wave of pure relief. You and I both thought that was the end, right? But the creature's eyes just start glowing a demonic red. Our hero can't believe it, the Minotaur is still standing, and looks even more furious than before. The boss charges with insane speed, and Maguru knows he can't survive another direct collision with this much hatred. The axe slams down with world-shaking force, but Izumi can tell the monster is bleeding out fast now. Maguru realizes that if he can just keep dodging, he'll win this battle of attrition without taking a scratch. The moment another heavy swing comes down, he ducks low, letting the wind whistle over his head. Watching that massive weapon reset, he wonders if he can string together a series of combo attacks while dodging those heavy swings one by one. But as the next blow comes inches from his face, he thinks this might actually be his end. The Minotaur roars, throwing a flaming axe that fills the main character with a sudden, overwhelming sense of fear. Suddenly, Kana leaps in front to save him, and he screams for her to move before he realizes she's actually planning something absolutely crazy. She takes the hit, but her amulet flashes, absorbing the lethal damage and keeping her alive in the process. Knowing exactly what she did, Maguru grabs the sacred sword and doesn't miss the chance to deliver the true finishing blow. Clearing an A-rank dungeon earns the party 50 points for their hard-won victory. Maguru isn't sure where the bonus came from, but he suspects his special crest of duty played a role. His teammates are completely stunned by his insane performance, but he only cares about checking on Kana to make sure she survived that impact. He admits they would have lost without her, but begs her to never pull a stunt like that again because he almost had a heart attack. Kana just fires back, reminding him that he's the one who's always putting his own life on the line. Nozomi asks if he's really just a D rank, because taking down an A-rank boss solo is absolutely insane. He hopes to finally hit class soon, so he can actually get some decent missions from the Hunter Association. The moment the pink-haired girl grabs his hand, Kana's jealousy starts to flare up immediately. Nozomi officially invites them both to join her guild, explaining how these independent hunter groups actually work. As the guildmaster, she says it's a crime for a talent like Maguru to be running solo. She promises better pay, a higher rank, and that their guild won't even take a cut of his rewards. Maguru gives her a polite thanks but turns her down, knowing it's not the right move for them. She says it's about more than just an offer, she feels safer with him. And trust me, you and I are definitely going to see them work together again. Let's dive into this wild situation together. Maguru is crystal clear. He and Kana have zero interest in joining any guilds or groups. He explains that even a great offer comes with strings, and he refuses to be restricted. Seeing his resolve, the guildmaster decides to back off and stop trying to convince him. She admits everyone would be dead without him and wants to say thanks properly, suggesting a private one-on-one meetup for the very next day. Nomi is absolutely beaming once Maguru agrees to her little plan. At her request, he claims Kana is just a standard teammate. He cannot exactly reveal she is his reincarnated sister, so he is forced to keep the lie going. Nomi gets even more excited by that answer and starts openly flirting with him. Suddenly, a purple portal erupts, shocking the group. With the dungeon cleared, they finally head home. Maguru announces his departure, which clearly annoys Kana since she seems to have caught feelings for him. Now, here's where it gets interesting for us. Even after saying he cares, Kana is furious about his date with Nomi. So, the main character hits the subway to meet the pink-haired girl. Maguru keeps Nomi waiting for almost 1 hour, but she insists she had only been there for 5 minutes. The pair heads to a restaurant for some pasta and a romantic vibe. Over dinner, Nomi asks what he does with his downtime. He just tells her that he focuses on resting until the next mission. She quickly realizes he does not have a girlfriend, and is overjoyed to hear Maguru confirm that he truly is not involved with anyone. She tries to play it cool, but Maguru is totally oblivious to her excitement. In return, he asks about her own hobbies. She claims she also spends her free time resting up. He is shocked, since younger people usually love going out and having fun. Nomi explains she wants to get stronger, remembering his warning about being way too overconfident in her skills. She explains that she once came close to a total life tragedy because trusting her own power too much resulted in her losing her very best friend. She never wants to feel that kind of crushing pain ever again in her life. That is the reason she works this hard. Maguru totally relates to her struggle. He is determined to protect Kana, never wanting to lose her like he did in their past life. Switching to Kana, Nomi asks if they are just teammates or something more. He replies they are partners who live together. The pink-haired girl is stunned to find out they share the same house. And when he mentions they sleep in the same room, total vibe killer. Trust me, you and I can feel her heart sink as she goes quiet and sad, despite his gentle tone. After she comments on how weird their living situation is, he suggests they stop at a specific shop. They eventually pull up in front of an incredible weapons store. Nomi thinks the shop is amazing with great prices, and Maguru is just glad he managed to fix her mood so easily. With a thick Chinese accent, the shop owner asks if they need help. Foreigners their age were rare in Japan back then, which the protagonist finds odd. Nomi picks up a sword and is impressed by its high quality. Maguru is not a sword expert, but the girl asks him to test the weapon out. He gives it a swing and finds it solid. Using his accent, the shopkeeper asks what weapon Maguru normally carries. In response, Maguru summons his legendary blade. He shows it to the owner, who is instantly shaken. Seeing the crest of duty on the blade, the man snaps. He assumes Maguru is working for Matsubara. Pure rage takes over as he grabs his own blade, ready to kill Maguru. Faced with the owner's sudden fury, Maguru feels the pressure. He draws his sword, trying to shout that this is all just a huge mistake. But the shopkeeper refuses to listen and charges straight at Maguru. Maguru warns him to stop before things get ugly, then swiftly snatches the man's arm. Showing off superior strength, Maguru slams the man to the ground. He tries not to cause injury, but he has no choice but to restrain him. He then demands to know exactly why the hell he was just attacked. Maguru realizes things will get messy if Nomi starts asking questions, so he thanks her for the day and decides to end the date right there. Dragging the owner to the back, Maguru repeats that he has no ties to Matsubara. If he did, the shopkeeper would already be a corpse. So, he asks why the man thought he worked for Matsubara. The man points out the symbol on the blade, the raven's crest. It was on every ex-hero's weapon, carrying a fragment of the Dungeon Master's power. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next, now that he knows the truth about this cursed blade. Stick with me, this revelation finally makes the shopkeeper believe Maguru's crazy story. With his questions finally answered, Maguru corners the man to dig up every detail about Matsubara's past. The shopkeeper reveals he has spent 5 long years investigating Matsubara with the sole intention of ending his life. He describes Matsubara as a literal monster, who became a dungeon master over 100 years ago. He releases monster swarms at will to terrify the city, making it so even the government is too scared to oppose him. Maguru knows that dungeon masters wield 4 terrifying powers granted by the state itself. Matsubara uses these abilities to spawn new dungeons and maintain his eternal youth. Inside his own domain, he is a god, fueled by massive S-rank dungeon blessings. Maguru vows the villain won't escape. The shopkeeper explains that to Matsubara, humans are just tools used to satisfy his desires. He crushed the citizens with insane taxes just to fill his own greedy pockets. Now, pay attention, this is where we see just how deep the tragedy and the ex-hero's cruelty really goes. The shopkeeper asks Maguru if he has ever heard of the Party of Happiness. Maguru has not, but he has a bad feeling that the name hides something truly sinister. It is actually a nightmare. It is a group of women forced into servitude for the tyrant. Officially, they are just entertainers, but everyone knows they are forced into doing his malicious dirty work. His own daughter was dragged into that group. Even his wife was taken and killed when she tried to fight back. Fueled by pure rage, he has tracked Matsubara to Japan to finally end his life once and for all. The shop owner admits killing an ex-hero inside their own dungeon is basically impossible, but since Matsubara is currently visiting Japan, this is the only chance the man has to strike. Maguru finally sees why this man is on the edge of a total psychological breakdown. The shopkeeper apologizes for attacking. thinking Maguru was just another one of the tyrant's goons. Maguru accepts, but bluntly tells him he is way too weak to actually kill the villain that way. Exploding with anger, the man lunges at Maguru, screaming that he knows absolutely nothing. Let's watch this. Maguru catches the punch easily, warning the man about the massive power gap between them. He's making it clear that he will be the one to obliterate the ex-hero, not some weak group. In that moment, the shopkeeper suggests that Maguru join his rebel group, believing that if they fight together, they can finally achieve their bloody revenge. Maguru shuts him down instantly. The shopkeeper is stunned. Why refuse the help? He is a lone wolf. He'll kill Matsubara himself and has zero interest in making friends. Kana is the only soul he trusts. Everyone else is just in the way. The shopkeeper argues that a common enemy is the only reason they need for an alliance. He claims his group is full of elites and that Maguru is in danger if he goes solo. But no matter what the man says, Maguru isn't changing his mind. He leaves the shop, exactly as he and Kana planned the day before. Maguru tells Kana to wait at home and promises to be back soon, and she finally obeys. But she is suspicious. She thinks he is meeting another woman and her jealousy is peaking. Angry that he's keeping secrets, she starts wondering why he would lie to her face. Haunted by the secrets, Kana decides to follow him. She is certain he is hiding something huge and needs the truth. As Kana shadows him, Maguru almost catches her. He shrugs it off as a trick of his imagination and keeps walking. He is heading to a showdown with the Chinese group to settle who gets the right to kill Matsubara. A squad in military gear stares him down with some seriously grim expressions. They heard the rumors he is flying solo and want to see if it is true. Maguru makes it clear he is not joining their ranks. Seeing no other choice, the group of soldiers prepares to attack. One soldier throws a heavy punch, but Maguru blocks the strike with zero effort. He senses the attacker is strong but hesitant, so he lands a brutal punch to the gut and slams him down. Realizing he is a threat, the Chinese leader decides they cannot let Maguru leave alive, regardless of his power. Trust me, you and I are about to see just how little experience these soldiers actually have. Alright, let's dive into one of the most brutal revenge stories you've ever seen. He unleashed a rapid-fire combo, dropping everyone instantly. He realized this group didn't stand a chance of ever taking down a monster like Matsubara. These military guys kept scrambling to their feet to fight Maguru, but they couldn't even touch him. The hero buried a heavy fist into one of them, asking if they were tired of being human punching bags. Their leader finally called it, declaring the fight over because his men were completely broken. The bald boss praised Izumi, calling his skills legendary for someone so young. As promised, he handed over every piece of information they had gathered on Matsubara. They passed him the files while Kana, hidden behind a door, watched the entire exchange. She wondered what they were hiding and felt relieved it wasn't some meeting with the Nozomi. Maguru was leaving the warehouse when he bumped right into Kana. He asked why she was there, and a flustered Kana apologized for following him out of pure curiosity. Maguru just hoped she hadn't overheard the most important parts of their talk. Kana grabbed his hand, demanding to know what else he was hiding. She needed to know why he was so obsessed with getting revenge on the former hero Matsubara. Now stick with me here. Explaining the truth meant revealing their connection, which could trigger her suppressed, horrific memories. He told her he couldn't say anything, but Kana wouldn't let it go. She claimed he was acting like a total stranger with all these secrets. Losing all trust in Maguru, she told him she just wanted to be alone. She pulled her hand away and sprinted off, screaming for him to stay away. Meanwhile, Matsubara was obsessing over Maguru, that unemployed man who defied the organization and killed Saito. He was boiling with rage, finding Maguru's defiance absolutely unforgivable. He wanted a face-to-face confrontation as soon as humanly possible, but a direct action would cause a scene. He knew he had to be smart about this, and that's when he spotted a girl alone on the street. He decided to use Akasaka Kana as the perfect bait to lure Maguru into a trap. Matsubara couldn't help but notice how much this girl looked like Maguru's dead sister. The former hero couldn't understand Maguru. The guy had nothing, yet he acted so confident. He was sharp though, with a weirdly intense sense of justice. Not that it mattered. He planned to erase Izumi just like he did with Akabane, Maguru, and his sister hundreds of years ago. Nothing would stand in his way. Elsewhere, Kana was regretting being so harsh. She hated the secrets, but she still cared about him. Akasaka Kana didn't want this fight to last. She tried to understand why he was keeping things from her, even though she could see he wanted to tell her. She realized Maguru probably had a very good reason for keeping her in the dark. Besides, she was the one who followed him, so she didn't really have a right to complain. She decided to fix things while she was still calm. She pulled out her phone and sent him a text apologizing. And here's the part where everything goes south, watch closely. Matsubara approached her, raising his hands and pretending he wasn't a threat at all. Kana felt a strange familiarity. She recognized him as one of the 6 legendary former heroes, but then a much darker memory hit her. This was the leader of the group that had brutally attacked her brother. Matsubara asked if she was Maguru's friend. claiming he knew secrets about Maguru's past that she definitely shouldn't know. He asked if she wanted to hear the truth and reached out to her, but he quickly realized the girl wasn't falling for his act. Kana didn't back down, demanding to know what the secret really was. Matsubara smirked, asking if she was really that curious despite knowing how dangerous he actually was. Kana desperately wanted the truth. She clutched her protective talisman, hoping it would keep her safe if things turned ugly. With a nasty grin, the red-bearded man promised to reveal everything to her. When things got dangerous, Kana activated her special item, but the effect was completely useless. Matsubara didn't even flinch. He punched the girl, and Kana slumped to the ground, unconscious. Matsubara declared he would keep his promise and tell her everything, but only after he called Izumi Maguru to settle their business forever. Finally, the red-bearded monster kidnapped the reincarnated hero's little sister. Matsubara locked Kana in a dark, dungeon-like cell. When she finally woke up, she was absolutely furious. She screamed that nobody liked him and that he'd never beat Maguru. She kept shouting that the hero was strong. You're going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are jumping right into a mess. This creep calls her cutie, saying he loves her fire and she should be honored. He chose her to be his future wife once this is all over. Then he makes a fair trade by snatching her phone. When Kana tries to protest, Matsubara slams the wall, barking at her to shut up. He tells her to just sit tight, promising she will get a front row seat to watch Maguru get absolutely crushed by despair. Back with our main character, Maguru. He is getting worried because Kana is way overdue to be home by now. He is actually waiting for her call, since he finally decided to accept her apology. When the phone finally rings, it is not Kana. It is a man's voice he does not recognize right away. The caller drops the bomb he has the girl. If Maguru ever wants to see her again, he has to show up at a specific address alone. Panic hits. Maguru starts screaming into the phone, demanding to know if Kana is okay. After tracking the scent, he vows that whoever did this is going to pay a heavy price. He is seeing red now. Now, pay attention here. Maguru arrives ready to obliterate someone, but finds heavy chains blocking the way. Let's see how he handles this. He spots Matsubara chilling by a bonfire, who mocks him for getting there so incredibly fast. That is when it clicks. That voice on the phone? Maguru finally realizes why it sounded so familiar. Honestly, he is glad it is Matsubara. He already wanted to take this former hero out, so this just makes it personal. He levels his blade at Matsubara, but the villain just laughs, telling him not to be in such a rush. Matsubara reveals Kana is trapped in a portal. If Maguru leaves, the whole dungeon vanishes with her. Maguru has no choice but to lower his sword. Fuming, he follows the guy into a custom-built dungeon. Strangely, there are not any monsters to be found here. Matsubara brags that he can delete this place whenever he wants, leaving absolutely no evidence behind. It is the perfect murder room. Maguru realizes this guy wants him dead just for being a minor annoyance in the past. Everything clicks. That double dungeon right in front of their house was this psycho's work all along. Sword in hand, Maguru asks if she is hurt. Matsubara just smirks and tells him to go see for himself. He throws open the massive doors, finding Kana tied to a cross. Their eyes meet, and he promises he is getting her out of there right now. The former hero grabs his massive hammer, signaling that the real fight is finally starting. But first, Maguru asks why. Why all this hate for a guy who is just a supposedly jobless rank D hunter? Matsubara admits it is personal. Maguru reminds him way too much of a specific person from his past. A man from 100 years ago that he absolutely despised with every fiber of his being. Okay, check this out. Maguru drops the bombshell. He literally is that same man from a century ago. Talk about a plot twist. Maguru charges, energy exploding from his body as he swings his blade toward the red-bearded villain. Matsubara freezes. That stance, that aura, it is exactly the same as 100 years ago. Realizing the truth, he hoists his giant weapon to face Maguru head-on. They collide. Steel meets stone in a massive explosion of pure, raw power. Maguru is forced back, and his enemy taunts him. He is nothing compared to the legend he was centuries ago. Right now, the power gap is clear. Matsubara is currently on a whole different level of strength. Maguru knows a direct head-to-head won't work. He needs a plan, and he realizes the brute's weakness is his massive size. To be exact, it is that glowing piece of armor on his left shoulder. It is a magic item that boosts his energy in short bursts. That is the secret to how such a giant can move with that kind of insane agility. But Maguru still has the edge in speed. He decides he is going to shatter that armor right now. Matsubara calls him weak, but Maguru just smirks. He tells him he is wide open and launches forward with blinding, brutal speed. He blurs past the giant, striking the left shoulder and leaving a massive crack in the armor. Feeling the threat, Matsubara swings his hammer in a desperate, wide arc. The hammer slams into the floor with full force, but Maguru dodges and leaps high into the air. Coming down like a meteor, he strikes the armor again, dealing even more damage to that magic piece. Before finishing him off, Maguru decides it is time to get some much-needed answers. He knows this guy is gathering a following in Japan. Sword at his throat, he demands to know their end goal. The villain just laughs. He explains that Japan is special because of that legendary sky dungeon that vanished 100 years ago. Even after some of that power was used to grant wishes, a massive amount of energy was left over. That energy should have been Maguru's prize, but now it is hidden in Japan. Trust me, you and I need to see where this goes next. Stick with me, securing this crystal is his only goal. Matsubara would reach a level of power beyond imagination, no longer satisfied with just ruling over China. He wanted this crystal to surpass every other hero, aiming for nothing less than total world domination. But he was not alone, every other hero was planning the same thing, ready to strike the moment it appeared. That is why Matsubara was building an army. Izumi knew these motives were typical of a villain like him, but Izumi called the plan utterly worthless and told Matsubara to wake up from that impossible, pathetic dream. Next, Izumi launched a strike fueled by hatred, aiming to put an end to this monster. He aimed right for the neck. Matsubara looked terrified for a second, but then he caught the blade bare-handed, laughing that his shoulder armor was never his weak spot. He smashed a brutal punch into Izumi's gut, sending the hero flying backward. As Izumi collapsed in agony, Kana screamed out, terrified that Maguru Izumi would actually die here. Matsubara laughed, explaining that his armor was only there to support his massive, heavy muscles all these years. But he did not need it anymore. Tearing off the plates, he told Izumi his time was finally up. Watching the armor fall, Izumi realized this battle was about to get much harder. Still, he had been busy collecting items lately, gathering potions and amulets to ensure he would make it out alive. He still had plenty of hidden tricks that the villain had not seen yet. Izumi told Matsubara he was talking way too much and promised to shut him up for good. Knowing a head-on clash was suicide, Izumi decided to play smart and use the environment. He drove his blade into the cavern rocks, raining heavy boulders down on the villain to force a better position. Then, he flooded the entire ground with water to set up his next spell. He knew Matsubara would not risk using his prideful strength on such unstable, slippery ground. Being a jobless class meant Izumi could adapt to anything, so he started to sprint. Despite the mud and water, he closed the gap instantly and ignited his fire magic. He slammed the explosive flames into Matsubara, hoping that this desperate attack would finally be enough. But Matsubara just flared his energy, stating the fight had not even started. He emerged from the smoke with slightly burned clothes, but not a single scratch on his body. Izumi realized he needed one decisive blow, so he reached for his most powerful amulet. Now watch this, he dodges a hammer blow as Matsubara mocks him. Izumi immediately deployed a magical barrier from his talisman to neutralize the heavy impact. After blocking the blow, he gripped his sacred sword and landed a massive slash that sent Matsubara tumbling down. That was his last trick. Izumi thought he finally had him, but Matsubara just stood up and laughed, claiming he did not feel a thing. This started to make Izumi really worried. The villain just scoffed at him. You and I both know calling him jobless trash is a mistake he is going to regret. Matsubara mocked him, saying cheap tricks would never be enough to win. Matsubara looked around, annoyed by the absolute mess the young hero had made of his dungeon. With a simple wave of his hand, the former hero used magic to instantly clean up the debris. As Maguru watched in shock, the villain just gave him a smug, condescending smile. He reminded the hero that this dungeon belonged to him, then summoned a massive horde of monsters and a spell. He asked if the hero was ready for the real nightmare to begin. Seeing gargoyles and demons swarming toward him, Izumi quickly used his fire magic to shield himself and blast the monsters away. But suddenly, Matsubara appeared right behind him, swinging that massive weapon with terrifying force. That impact sent our hero soaring. The gap in their raw stats was just too huge for him to have hope. His mind went blank from the pain. He felt completely helpless against his greatest enemy. It felt like history was repeating itself from centuries ago, dragging him back into that same pit of black despair. The memories of his own death and his sister's face began to haunt his failing mind. Suddenly, a glowing purple mark appeared on his hand, revealing the secret power to consume the energy of the crest. He only had 30 seconds to use the power of the crest of duty, but that limitation did not matter. Without a second thought, Maguru Izumi accepted the system's offer to gain the strength he needed. Trust me, you and I are about to see his stats explode to over 500. Alright, you and I are about to see a satisfying counterattack as Maguru obliterates those demons. Maguru feels an insane surge of power flooding his system. But there is a catch. The 5-minute countdown for this strength has begun. Matsubara is stunned, demanding to know how Maguru got his hands on that crest. He reveals that back when he took him out in the Sky Dungeon, everyone received powers based on their deepest desires. Matsubara got boosted stats and unique skills that made him feel like a god. Cutting the small talk, Matsubara acts like Maguru, getting stronger doesn't change a thing. He is totally unimpressed. He figures the dungeon must have rewarded Maguru for purifying it, granting him that mark. It is a surprise, sure, but he is still planning to finish him. But right now, our hero fires back with a grin. He tells Matsubara not to get cocky, because the power balance just shifted completely. The enemy loses it, stomping the ground so hard the entire room starts crumbling under his massive brute force. Now watch this part closely because it is absolutely wild. He launches a fire spell like the sun, but Maguru just freezes it mid-air. The whole place turns into an icy wasteland. Maguru lunges, his sword flashing, and slices Matsubara's arm clean off. It hits the floor, dead weight. Izumi feels like he is gliding. His power feels absolute, truly infinite. In this state, ending this villain is going to be effortless. Redbeard Matsubara finally realizes he is cooked and starts begging for his life. Honestly, it just makes our hero more annoyed. Centuries ago, Matsubara didn't hesitate to kill him. Even with the begging, Maguru isn't about to show a single shred of mercy. He summons massive spikes of ice. As Redbeard drowns in pure despair, our hero releases the spell. An ice spear flies forward as the spikes impale Matsubara through the chest. Just like that, the villain is gone. Revenge? Check. Our unemployed hero just crossed the first name off his list. You and I saw that coming, but Maguru feels disappointed by how easy the fight was. The power crest recharges as his duty skill wears off, and his stats drop back down to their normal levels. Looking at the growing mark on his hand, he realizes this power was gained by taking down Saito. Miyu wonders if this mark is directly tied to the act of killing, but there is no time for that. He has to save Kana. Maguru rushes to his sister, tearing her chains away. The girl collapses into his arms, crying with relief. She is just happy to be alive, apologizing for getting him into this mess. He tells her to stop. She doesn't need to apologize, she is the only reason he even keeps going. Kana looks at him, totally stunned. The weight of his words is something she can't even begin to process yet. Maguru quickly changes the subject. They need to leave this place immediately. That is when he notices it. There is no exit, and the ground starts shaking violently. Since its master is dead, Matsubara's dungeon is literally self-destructing. They're trapped deep inside with the main entrance way too far away. Maguru panics, thinking they are about to be buried alive, until a wild idea hits him. If Matsubara built this place with his own power, then his sword should still work. Activating his mark, Maguru decides to use the villain's own mana to hijack the exit. Mana is the soul of everything here, after all. He starts scanning the dungeon's energy flow. He sees the structure and realizes that usually, only a dungeon master has total control. However, using Matsubara's own blade, he manages to forcibly rip the connection between the master and the environment. Maguru slashes the crystal mana link to Matsubara's soul, tearing open a brand new exit. He grabs Kana and they sprint for their lives. The second they step outside, the whole mountain collapses behind them. Kana screams in terror as Maguru suddenly collapses the moment they reach safety. He wakes up in a hospital bed for the second time, feeling his mana slowly fading away again. His reincarnated sister, Kana, is right there. She lunges for a hug the second he opens his eyes, crying tears of joy. A nurse walks in a few moments later to check his vitals. She explains that he passed out from a massive fever and was in bad shape, but somehow, he's already back in perfect health. Maguru thanks the staff but agrees to stay the night for observation. They both know he needs the rest. And as we leave them, Maguru wonders how his sister carried his heavy body all that way. Stick with me, you and I are diving into a mystery that is about to get incredibly complicated. She wanted the truth about his brutal fight with Matsubara. Maguru tried to hide it, but honestly, he had no other choice. He started the long story, going back to the legendary hunters who first challenged those deadly sky dungeons. 8 S-rank hunters entered a celestial dungeon. Only 6 won, becoming the world's first S-level dungeon masters. Eventually, they used that overwhelming power to conquer entire continents. Kana knew Matsubara was part of that elite group, but wondered about the 2 heroes who never returned. Reincarnated Kana heard the legendary healer of the past died protecting her team. However, she knew nothing of the other hero. Since almost no records of him remained in modern times, Maguru dropped a bombshell the hero beside Kana was betrayed. Matsubara and the other heroes had actually eliminated both of them. The girl was speechless, as he was about to reveal that the last hero was also named Maguru. Suddenly, Nozomi burst in, shouting his name and cutting the conversation short. Worried sick, she had raced to the hospital the moment she heard he had collapsed. Maguru asked who leaked the news, and she explained the association had informed her team. He realized the hospital reported every hunter's medical records directly to the association. He thanked her for checking on him so quickly. Seeing this, Kana felt a sharp sting of jealousy, accusing him of being a lovesick fool. Maguru told her he had a duty to protect Kana and couldn't afford to die yet. Kana stood there, realizing he truly did care for her. Right then, the 2 girls locked eyes in a fierce rivalry for his attention. Our protagonist was completely clueless about why they suddenly seemed to hate each other. He knew he couldn't keep talking about his dark past while things were this chaotic. For now, he would put his burning desire for revenge aside. He just wanted to enjoy these moments of peace. The girls finally left him alone in his room. The silence was heavy, so he turned on the TV just to have some background noise. Now, watch this. Matsubara was right there on the screen, even though Maguru was sure he had killed him. Back in a B-level dungeon, Maguru faced a pack of monsters alongside Nozomi and Kana, fighting off giant wolves. Nozomi swung her massive sword, cleaving through the creatures and supporting our hero. This was the perfect way to get back into his rhythm and farm some serious attribute points. Nozomi had been anxious since the hospital visit, but her worries quickly faded in battle. Still, the question haunted him: how was Matsubara still alive after what happened in the dungeon? He had used every trick in his arsenal the day before. Knowing things would only get harder, they finished their run and left that B-level dungeon behind. The moment they exited, they headed straight for the Shinjuku Hunter Association headquarters. The secretary thanked them, but mentioned the branch leader needed a private word with Maguru. Meanwhile, in China, pay attention because Matsubara is very much alive and absolutely furious. He couldn't believe his defeat. Looking at the mark on his body, he knew his soul separation technique was the only reason he survived. Suddenly, a man burst into the room, unable to believe his eyes. His master was alive. Still bitter over his loss, Matsubara decided to lower his profile for now, since he had expected this outcome. He claimed it was fine, as he would find a new way to entertain himself and watch his subjects. His secretary suggested resting until his soul crystal could fully regenerate. Even with his crystal shattered, Matsubara roared that it wouldn't be a problem for him. He walked out into the busy streets of China. An excited little girl tried to strike up a conversation with him. Her mother quickly pulled her back, begging the child not to be so disrespectful. In a display of pure brutality, Matsubara kicked the child unconscious, leaving her mother in despair. Afterward, he headed straight for a nightclub, but he couldn't find any thrill. He muttered that if Maguru hadn't come back from the dead, none of this would be happening. Suddenly, a massive disturbance caught everyone's attention inside the club. A massive man appeared, and without a second thought, began strangling Matsubara's secretary and a young girl. That girl was actually Futaba Mizuo, who had tracked down Matsubara's real body, aided by the summoner hero, Hidaka Ahi. Matsubara recognized them instantly. Futaba noted it had been 70 years since they last met, mocking his pathetic security. You and I are in for one hell of a showdown. Alright, let's see why these guys are invading Matsubara's territory, and what they are actually after. The heroine reveals a shocker. He never expected 2 of the 6 heroes to grow this strong. Targeting the weakest among them was just simple, effective strategy. Suddenly, Hidaka Ahi rips open a portal, unleashing a swarm of skeletons that immediately lunges at Matsubara. Glasses-wearing Hidaka starts taunting him, mocking how Matsubara grew lazy and careless over the last 70 years. Meanwhile, these two spent that same period becoming absolute monsters. He adds that when the world changes, you adapt. Evolution is inevitable. Matsubara just needed to evolve in the right direction. Skeletons pin the old hero down as Futaba Mizuo sneaks up behind him. She touches his head and whispers a cold goodbye. Matsubara turns just in time to see a massive vortex of flames before the girl finishes him off. Futaba was totally confident she could have wiped him out entirely on her own. The summoner knows better. If Matsubara weren't so drained, he could have turned the tables in a solo fight. Futaba asks if he got what he came for. Hidaka just smirks, claiming he has everything he wanted. Now watch this. As he starts absorbing the body, he declares it is time to save this rotten world. The red-bearded hero is turned into a mere summon. Elsewhere, Maguru meets the Hunter Association chief, wondering exactly what the boss wants. The chief wants to talk about Maguru's connection to Matsubara, but he makes it clear this is not an interrogation or a suspicion. Based on his investigation, all 6 heroes carry the same crest, granting them a massive variety of special and unique powers. That mark is the only reason the red-bearded Matsubara is even standing here today. Whenever he faced a superior opponent, he used that mark to run away. Maguru realizes the chief knows his stuff and starts explaining everything to him. Hearing the full story, the chief is stunned. Maguru is way stronger than he thought for taking down Matsubara. He explains that the old heroes were nothing but extreme tyrants. Japan hasn't fallen yet, but as long as these heroes exist, the entire world is trapped in a nightmare. That is why the head of the association is desperate to establish real and lasting peace. He reaches out to Maguru, proposing a partnership to finally fix this world together. You and I might think Japan is safe from monsters, and everyone credits that peaceful stability to the power of the 6 heroes. The chief questions what makes Japan more special than any other nation. It is their homeland, the exact site where the Sky Dungeon appeared. A century ago, 8 legendary figures conquered that place, and our heroes were among them. When the dungeons collapsed, the hardened mana transformed into the power crystals we see today. These crystals are scattered all over Japan, and the heroes have been hunting them down non-stop. Maguru remembers that Matsubara was actually searching for one of those very crystals. He wonders why, if they wanted them so badly, they didn't collect them 100 years ago. The chief's theory is that their status as dungeon masters was actually holding them back. After all, they gained eternal bodies, immortality, and godlike power. But if you think about it, that power came with massive restrictions. The mana wavelength these heroes emit is identical to the dungeons they rule. They aren't just ruling dungeons. They have literally become part of them. Maguru remembers Matsubara bragging about his soul being one with his territory. This means if their dungeons are destroyed, they die right along with them. It makes sense. Heroes bound to a dungeon can't even move if their territory isn't in perfect order. All evidence points to this, even if it is still just a solid theory. Seeing what happened to the old hero, Maguru knows more dungeons are coming. The chief officially asks for help. There is a reward, too. The chief promises him anything: money, high status, or top secret intel. Maguru asks for the right to be the first to enter any B rank or higher dungeons nationwide. To reach the peak of strength, he needs to clear every location and hoard all the rewards. The chief agrees instantly, excited to see the massive impact this new partnership will have. Maguru has one condition: keep Kana in the dark. And that is where we leave it for today, folks. Alright, you and I are about to see how Maguru realizes keeping Kana close is the only way to protect her, especially since he can't be everywhere at once. Plus, he needs a plan to keep her safe while taking down the remaining heroes. The chief, however, has some serious doubts about the situation. He thinks 2 people aren't enough to fight 6 heroes, and suggests that Maguru should recruit some other high-level hunters to join the squad. But Maguru has his own ideas. He already has a specific teammate in mind, someone he knows he can actually trust to have his back. That person is Nozomi. She's hyped to join, but she's got one condition. She wants her friends Hikari and Sakura to come along as well. Maguru shuts that down immediately. He makes it crystal clear that he only wants her on the team and refuses to bring the others. He knows the other 2 will just end up dead. Nozomi is in a different league entirely, and bringing the others along would only hold them back. In his eyes, the best they could offer is acting as a sacrifice to keep Kana out of the line of fire. That's a deal he's not willing to make. He refuses to invite anyone to the group if he knows they're just going to die. Nozomi isn't having it. She turns him down, saying she won't just turn her back on her 2 closest companions and teammates. Even though she really wants to help Maguru, she's not the type of person who would ever betray the trust of her friends. Upset, she gets up to leave with Hikari and Sakura. But suddenly, Sakura speaks up, stopping Izumi Maguru with a surprising proposal of her own. They want to support Nozomi, even if they know they can't match her insane level of power in a real fight. They've been a team for years, best friends and hunters who have been through everything together. They just can't separate now, so they ask for a single chance to prove their worth. If they fail, they'll leave the group for good. Nozomi hears this and reminds them they can't decide that on their own. The girls then confront Nozomi and our main character, waiting for a final answer. Seeing that fire in their eyes, Maguru actually agrees. Since they're willing to go this far, he'll give them one shot to prove themselves. They head to an abandoned warehouse where Maguru makes sure they won't be interrupted by anyone during this high-stakes test. Now pay attention here. He challenges them to attack him together, but with a twist. He won't take a single step during the entire fight. If they force him to move, they're in. The duo agrees, and Hikari charges in with everything she has, aiming a heavy strike. But as she gets close, she hesitates. She's actually afraid that she might end up hurting him by accident during her attack. Maguru calls her out on it. He tells them not to hold back just because he's unarmed. He wants them to try and kill him. Hikari charges forward now with all her strength. She brings her weapon down in a massive overhead swing, while Sakura simultaneously tries to sneak in a surprise attack from behind. Maguru is impressed. Their teamwork is flawless, the kind of coordination you only get after years of fighting together. They unleash ice, magic, and physical strikes until, suddenly, Maguru tosses Hikari aside like a rag doll and instantly casts a powerful spell right at Sakura, who's caught in the blast. She's completely stunned by the counter. After slamming them both into the ground, he looks down and asks if that's really all they've got. But the girls aren't done yet. They stand back up, fueled by sheer willpower, ready to continue their desperate assault against him. He sees their determination as they charge in one more time, pouring every last bit of their energy into one final attack. But let's be real, he's an immovable wall. He quickly knocks them down again, still standing in the exact same spot he started without even flinching. Beaten and exhausted, the two finally realize the truth. If they're this weak, they really will just be a burden on the team. They apologize to Nozomi for not being able to keep up. They know they can't stay on the team after a performance like that. They realize there was never a chance. This challenge was just Maguru's way of letting them say a proper goodbye to Nozomi. A tearful Nozomi thanks them both. She suggests they all go out for cake the next time they're free to hang out. She tells them to get stronger so they can work together again. Their team might be over for now, but they'll always be best friends. They pull into a tight hug, crying together in emotion. Maguru watches them, acknowledging their grit. He knows they've pushed themselves to the limit. They might be weak now, but they'll become legends one day. Suddenly, our protagonist gets a mysterious call. When he answers, he hears someone screaming for help in pure desperation. The news is urgent. Hidaka and Futaba, 2 of the 6 heroes, are already on their way to Japan right now. Hearing that 2 of the heroes are finally arriving hits him like a truck, instantly fueling him with a dark, burning hatred. Trust me, this is where it all started. 100 years ago, after the death of the hero and his sister, Matsubara was furious. They had cleared the final dungeon, but the system didn't grant any of the wishes they were promised. He opens the system window to find out about the crystal fragments. By collapsing the dungeon, they could potentially collect the pieces scattered across Japan. Anyone who gets the full crystal will have their wish granted and become a dungeon master with absolute power over the entire world. They would control the very first dungeon they found and gain the gift of eternal life itself. Stick with me, these guys just got crests, boosted stats, and a unique skill. But there is a catch. No dungeon in 72 hours? Then they all die. Matsubara, the chubby one, knows only one person gets their wish granted by claiming the final crystal at the end. This means the heroes are officially enemies from now on. Shiashi Hokuto, the hero knight, finds this situation absolutely entertaining. Meanwhile, the archer, Tsurumi Yakumo, notices there are even more hidden rules to follow. These mana fragments are scattered everywhere. They are hardened dungeon energy that you can track from a massive distance by their mana signature. The mage Kawasaki Masato thinks it is way too much info, while Futaba realizes she cannot even take photos of the text to remember it later. Matsubara is not interested in reading. He only cares about being the sole crystal collector. He thinks he can take all the time he wants searching, as long as he eliminates the competition first. He skips reading the rest of the text. He takes off for China, thinking its proximity to Japan makes it the smartest tactical move available. Tsurumi disagrees. He thinks the terrain is bad and Matsubara is an idiot for leaving without reading everything. Now, stick with me here. After reading the rules, they realize only one can become a god. Anyone not ascending gets eliminated. Judging by the crystal description, these fragments definitely cannot be gathered in just a single night. Shiashi the knight understands the score. They have to hunt each other down until only one is left standing. A fight is inevitable, no matter where they hide. Tsurumi knows the only way out is if someone collects all the fragments at lightning speed. Hidaka struggles to find a shortcut for the fragments. Then, for some weird reason, he thinks of using Futaba. He decides to form a partnership. He tells her they do not have to fight until it is just them. He begs her to stop wasting time on photos, but she insists it is not a waste. She has a big plan to gather crystals and needs the time. Futaba tells him to do the heavy lifting. He asks her to be more rational, but the girl is stubborn. She just wants her photos and demands he accepts her terms. She casts a spell, forcing Hidaka to obey. He just hopes she is quick with the camera. He knows the price for her help is steep, but he is willing to pay it for now. He cannot harm her at all. Furthermore, he has to obey every single requirement, which kicks in immediately if he ever tries to break the agreement. Back in the present, our hero is shocked to hear that these 2 new heroes have arrived. I know what you are thinking. Our main character just needs to decide the order he will eliminate these heroes. He is making a hit list. Plus, the boss calls him in. He has something important to give him at the association. The trio heads to the branch headquarters, following the boss into a massive warehouse for a gift. The boss knows how strong he is. They need elite weapons to fight heroes. He tells them to take whatever they want from the massive warehouse stockpile. Our hero grabs a massive blue-bladed sword. The boss expected him to pick that one. This blade is worth 20 million. It is the most expensive item in the entire room. Maguru says the sword is decent, but it will not be enough for him for very long. He prefers Seto's weapon and asks if this is really the best they have. The boss says they need rare materials to strengthen these items even further than this. Maguru can get better gear soon, as long as he brings back the right materials. Dungeons are full of mana. A Philosopher's Stone would be perfect for making a weapon legendary. Our protagonist actually had no idea that the Philosopher's Stone could even do that. A stone could upgrade weapons for all 3 of them. Maguru wants his teammates to have the best gear for the fights ahead. He realizes that finding a Philosopher's Stone is the key to reaching the peak of power. But getting a dungeon to just appear out of nowhere, is rare. He wonders when he will ever find one. Luckily, the boss reveals some were just found in central Tokyo. Apparently, one of these massive dungeons appeared just yesterday. Our protagonist asks what exactly emerged in Shibuya. Nobody knows the reason, but active dragon veins are likely the cause behind these phenomena. On the subway, trust me, you and I are following Nomi as she hunts for Futaba. Alright, you and I are about to jump into a world where a social media obsession becomes a total nightmare. Forget to like a post, you get punished. Look better than her? Same deal. This woman is absolutely insane. She literally buys loyalty with her oil field profits. It actually works, making her famous while she obsessively hunts for more digital clout. Meanwhile, the silent Nijitaka Asahi was just put in charge of the bloodiest political purges. For now, they were just letting him work since he wasn't a direct threat. As for our reincarnated hero Maguru, Kana figured only Matsubara knew the truth. When she asked if he knew these people, he admitted he hadn't seen them in 100 years. She kept pushing, asking what kind of people they were, but our main character couldn't give her an answer. He decided to keep her past life a secret, but eventually told Nomi that he was the reincarnation of the legendary hero, Miru. 1 week before hitting the Sky Dungeon, they met with 6 other heroes to train together. They arrived and met the rest of the team. Matsubara was actually polite, and our hero played along. They all entered an A-rank dungeon and started hunting down some monsters. Now watch this. Matsubara is stunned by just how lethal an unemployed class can actually be in combat. Futaba realized he was hot and incredibly strong, so she immediately started scouting him as her next potential boyfriend. But our main character wants absolutely nothing to do with her drama. He just said he was seeing someone and walked away. Futaba was absolutely fuming that he dared to ignore her. She looked at Kana and wondered what made that girl so special. Pure jealousy kicked in as she realized just how beautiful and stylish Kana really was. During the raid, Futaba intentionally shoved Kana the healer, sending her sprawling right into the dirt. She faked an apology while a chubby guy helped her up. But then, that creep started touching her inappropriately. Maguru saw it and stepped in, giving the chubby guy a look that could literally kill. Matsubara could tell a fight was about to break. He told everyone to stop quarreling. Kana begged him to stay calm, so our hero promised to never leave her side again. Maguru knew the truth. These heroes only cared about their own selfish desires. Still, he couldn't judge. His own path of revenge wasn't exactly noble either. They reached the heart of the dungeon, only to find the monsters already slaughtered. Someone else was here. The door was open. Stick with me, because this is where the past and present finally collide for our hero in a massive way. They didn't recognize him. His new face after reincarnation was the perfect disguise. They didn't even realize the 2 girls were there. Maguru told the girls to leave the area immediately, and they listened. He gripped his sword, wondering if he should just kill them now. But he forced himself to stay calm. It wasn't time yet. He walked right up to them and asked what they were doing. They asked if he was a hunter. When he said not yet, Futaba bragged about already killing the boss. He mockingly told them they must be real strong for taking down that final boss. He waited for the perfect second, then suddenly launched a fireball directly at their faces. Hidaka grabbed Futaba just in time, diving out of the way of the surprise attack. Furious, our main character charged in with his special blade. Hidaka summoned an army of skeletons, but they were shattered instantly. This guy was no ordinary fighter. Kana ignored her brother and screamed his name out loud. Immediately, the hero recognized that name from 100 years ago. It didn't click until Hidaka realized they called him Maguru. He watched his magic, his sword, and his ruthless fighting style. Finally, the realization hit him like a ton of bricks. You and I know this war is just beginning, and trust me, things are about to get even crazier. Alright, stick with me because Futaba is officially out for blood, and her target is Kana. She did not care if this was the past Kana or not. That face and attitude just set her off, reminding her of everything she hated. Additionally, she was ready to take out Nomi too, just because she had the power. Hidaka knew there was no talking to Futaba when she was this enraged, and if she used a command spell, he would be forced to obey her every whim. So the chubby man with glasses gave her exactly 30 seconds to finish this entire fight. He even told her to hurry it up, since her strength was more than enough to crush them in a few seconds. When he asked if he was expecting too much, a frustrated Futaba promised him it would be over fast. Meanwhile, Nomi was frozen in terror after realizing these 2 enemies were among the 6 legendary heroes. Maguru confirmed the nightmare, knowing they had to settle this right here and now, with no escape. Now, pay attention here, because Futaba charges in at full power, and our protagonist braces for the impact. But the heroine targets Kana instead, forcing Maguru to jump in front and take the hit. Realizing he can barely defend against her powerful blows, Mo saw she was aiming for Kana, but Nomi was confident that they could still handle it. Without wasting a moment, Nomi charged up a blindingly fast attack and lunged forward. Futaba was actually impressed by Nomi's skill up close, but she quickly dodged and launched a massive counterattack with a wave of devastating magic. Calling the girl weak and out of her league, Futaba landed a direct hit, instantly defeating Nomi. She even bragged about being stronger and more beautiful because she was part of that elite first class of hunters. Futaba turned her sights back on Kana and Maguru, but her partner Hidaka cut the party short. He announced that 30 seconds were up, and they would be making their exit through a portal. Before vanishing, Futaba gave a chilling warning that she would let them live today. But next time, Kana was dead. Maguru felt completely powerless and frustrated, unable to even touch Futaba while Nomi lay there unconscious. When she finally woke, Nomi asked the burning question, who were those people and how did they know Kana's name? Alright, you and I are finally getting the full truth here, as Maguru decides he has to reveal the secret that both he and Kana have actually reincarnated into new bodies. He explained they were exact copies of the past heroes, Maguru and Kana, which is why their enemies knew exactly who they were. He wished he could show them proof, but since photos from 100 years ago were long gone, he could only swear that he recognized his own sister even in another body. Now it finally clicked for Kana why Maguru had been so protective of her. Maguru made it clear she was his precious family, and because those people hurt her in the past, he would never, ever forgive them for what they did. He swore a silent vow to wipe every last one of them out. Both Nomi and Kana were stunned. Back at home, Kana was totally lost in thought, realizing she was the true reason Maguru was so obsessed with revenge. Maguru figured the shock was just too much for her, but then a knock came at their door. He went to see who it was while telling his sister to go get some sleep. When he opened the door, he found Nomi waiting there, wanting to have a talk with Kana. Nomi said she was borrowing her for a bit as they went for a walk, even though Maguru thought they should stay inside given it was raining and late. Nomi asked point blank if Kana was annoyed by Maguru treating her like a little sister. Kana admitted she was fine with it now, because as long as they stayed together, labels did not really matter. What actually worried her was Maguru's guilt and his dark obsession with getting revenge on those heroes. She truly believed that without this thirst for blood, they could finally just live a normal, peaceful life. She felt like she had taken away his chance at true happiness, and she was positive her past self would never want him to go down this dark path. Nomi said she totally understood how Maguru felt, because if anyone she loved was ever taken down, she would feel absolutely terrible if she could not protect them. She admitted she would probably lose herself to rage and become just as obsessed as he was. This made Kana wonder how she would feel if Maguru were the one to die and if she would react the exact same way. So what do you and I take from this? Kana finally realizes that Maguru has nothing but her on his mind, and even her spot in the group was just to ensure she stays safe. Alright, you and I are diving back into a story where loyalty is tested. Kana thinks Nomi should sacrifice herself so they can fight at full strength. After thinking it over, Kana decides it is actually alright. She understands the crushing weight of losing someone close and accepts this dark possibility. More than anything, Kana just wants to be useful to Maguru Izumi, no matter what it takes. She is certain he will crush the heroes, but knows he needs her healing and buffs to stay in the fight. It is a solid plan for any hunter team. You always do whatever is necessary to keep your healer safe. So, Kana accepts Maguru, protecting her as mutual support, and feels genuinely happy to be by his side. The next day, Nomi tells Kana about an urgent dungeon for Maguru. They need to move fast, and Nomi asks Kana what she truly wants. Kana still hopes he might give up on his revenge, but she knows his mind is already made up. She hides her worries behind a smile and insists on joining them for the mission. They arrive to find a portal sitting right in the middle of a busy street. It is a terrible spot that blocks the shop behind it. Because of that, the boss wants this dungeon cleared by tonight. Maguru, the hero, wants to make this quick so he can finally grab the Philosopher's Stone that the branch manager told them about. They step inside the dungeon, and surprisingly, everything looks pretty normal. It actually feels easier than most dungeons. They even find the boss room door almost immediately without any trouble. Maguru notices the layout is weirdly simple. Now, watch closely. As Nomi moves, Maguru spots a trap and shouts a warning. She steps on it anyway, but her magical armor is strong enough to shrug off the hit. It was only a volley of needles. Honestly, Maguru finds the whole thing a bit disappointing. Using his search skill, he realizes these needles are invisible to the eye, firing from the walls when triggered. Nomi looks at the massive spikes and admits nobody would ever see those coming on a first run. Maguru explains that grade A dungeons always have a few nasty tricks, and this one is no different. Suddenly, 2 pumpkin monsters jump out. Maguru summons frozen spears and wipes them out instantly. Nomi realizes they will have to juggle fighting monsters and dodging traps at the same time. Maguru is not worried. These weaklings are zero threat as long as they do not pull any more surprises. He unleashes a massive wave of fire, incinerating a whole group of monsters in one shot. He tells Nomi to pull as much aggro as possible, while Kana focuses entirely on keeping her healed. The pink-haired Nomi draws her blade, declaring she will protect Maguru's sister as she charges in with full force, while the blonde Kana keeps the healing spells flowing. Nomi does a great job tanking, and Kana finds that while healing takes time, it is easy to manage here. Maguru begins to charge his arm with crackling lightning magic as he approaches a monster, placing his hand on the pumpkin and unleashing the full power of his shock magic. He thanks the girls for buying him time to cast, and they secure an easy victory. Nomi notices that when Maguru focuses on the attack, the combat ends in an instant. She looks at the scorched pumpkins destroyed by Maguru's overwhelming lightning magic. Nomi wants to be more useful, but her defense is too low. You and I both know that feeling of hitting a wall against stronger foes. Maguru knows her defense won't just double overnight. Her class limits her tanking, so he decides that increasing her agility is the better play. After all, power does not matter if the enemy cannot land a single hit. He has a spell that can boost her agility. Since they have a little time, he decides to teach Kana a new trick as well. An hour later, they enter the boss room. A massive, enraged pumpkin is waiting to test their new skills. Nomi, now moving with incredible speed and faster attacks, blurs into motion while Kana unleashes a poison spell that begins draining the boss's life. Nomi manages to block a heavy strike with her shield and feels the rush. While she holds the line, Maguru handles the rest. He fires a massive frozen spear that shatters the boss, then gives Nomi a nod for the assist. The boss falls, and they finally claim the Philosopher's Stone. Somewhere else, Futaba and Hidaka are seen spending time at a park in Chiba Prefecture. Hidaka apologizes for the interruption, but their plan is almost ready. Trust me, you and I need to see what comes next. Stick with me, the masterminds are moving. Futaba knows Hidaka plans solo, but she wants the full breakdown. He explains the scale of it. Crystals are buried across all of Japan, requiring a total scan of the entire country. But there is a shortcut. The new Philosopher's Stone could pull all those crystals together at once. The only catch? Hidaka warns that doing this makes them huge targets, and the collection process is going to take a massive amount of time. If any high-level hunter interferes, the whole plan could fall apart before they even get started. Futaba realizes he's talking about Maguru Izumi. That's when Hidaka drops the bomb he's planning to fake the hunter's death. With things so unstable, they both need to be ready to throw down at a moment's notice. She makes a ridiculous face, but Sirius reminds her that the success of this whole mission is riding on her shoulders. Meanwhile, over at the Hunter Association warehouse, the branch chief is pulling out the most expensive sword in their entire collection. Maguru, our main character, knows the deal. The better the base weapon, the more insane the power-up will be later. Using a high-tier sword with built-in bonuses is way better than anything else he has in his inventory. The branch chief notices that Nosumi and Kana have already picked out their new gear as well. They head down to the second basement level. The branch chief calls this place the Red Laboratory. This is where they build the tech that summons monsters for the association's promotional exams. A scientist uses the Philosopher's Stone to fuse with that legendary blue sword. When it's done, Maguru notices it looks exactly the same. Watch this part closely. He decides to test the blade, promising to take it easy since they're in a tight space. He lets out a tiny downward slash, but the sword erupts with a terrifyingly powerful trail of mana. It scares the whole group, but the branch chief is absolutely hyped. Maguru realizes the sword is a beast now. Technology has really come a long way over the last century. Spells using the stone's energy are based on a discovery from 5 years ago. That means the heroes don't even know about this yet. To boost his stats, Maguru needs to clear every dungeon at once. To take on those two ancient heroes, he's going to need all the firepower he can get. Luckily, Nozomi has a new shield now, meaning she can tank damage way better than before. And with Kana's new staff, her casting time is basically non-existent. The chief wants to do even more for them, but Maguru tells him it's already enough. He's ready to test his soul, so the chief offers a rank B challenge. But then, a phone call changes everything. Now, stay with me here. The chief tells our reincarnated hero to stay calm before dropping some heavy news. Monsters have started pouring out of Matsubara's dungeon all the way over in Shanghai. Maguru immediately realizes Matsubara is dead. That's the only reason the monsters are escaping like this. He wants answers, but clearing the swarm is the priority. If they don't act now, things will get ugly. The swarm will eventually hit Japan, so Maguru has to conquer that S-rank dungeon as fast as possible. The cause doesn't matter right now. The real problem is the tidal wave of monsters flooding the area. Maguru is ready to dive into that S-rank right now. Since the master is gone, the dungeon is collapsing. The chief wants to borrow Maguru's strength, but he's not going to force him into a suicide mission. He doesn't have to, though. Our hero steps up and says he'll handle the whole situation himself. If they don't go, nobody can stop this. If Japan falls, Kana's safety is on the line too. They hop on a private jet and arrive over Shanghai just 3 hours later. As they prepare to land, they see the runway is completely trashed. Landing is out of the question. Maguru just unbuckles his seatbelt and says this spot is perfect. Everyone thinks he's about to parachute out. Instead, he jumps without a parachute while holding Kana. Nozomi follows right behind them. They activate anti-gravity magic and touch down without a single scratch. Nozomi thought she was a goner. Maguru apologizes, saying he didn't have time to explain the plan. He spots the local hunters and they're way too weak. They're barely holding on against the beasts. Trust me, we're about to see a masterclass. Against these S-rank monsters, he's going to clear the field solo. Alright, you and I are watching as a rain of ice shards wipes these monsters out instantly. As the creatures vanish like a cleared dungeon, Maguru turns to the local hunters to see if they actually get what is happening. Even without the full story, these hunters are convinced that Matsubara is setting these monsters loose on purpose. Thinking back 20 years to when that national uprising was crushed, our main character realizes that the former red-bearded hero is up to something truly disgusting. Panic starts spreading like wildfire thanks to all the misinformation, but Maguru sets them straight. Matsubara has already been taken down. The hunters cannot believe he was defeated and immediately start demanding answers from Izumi. She explains the truth. There are actually two distinct sources of magic at play here. One comes from the body while the other is from the dungeon. And right now, she only senses one. This means the dungeon master is gone, the place is falling apart, and the monsters are pouring out into the world. Pay attention, because just as the hunters refuse to believe it, Matsubara suddenly lunges from the shadows to ambush our hero right in front of them. At the very last second, our hero draws his blade just in time to block a massive hammer strike. The red-bearded warrior himself, Matsubara, screams out that he is alive and well for everyone to see. Seeing him attack out of nowhere, the girls are completely blindsided by the fact that he is still standing. They knew the monsters were out because the master was gone, so how could Matsubara still be alive? Without missing a beat, Maguru decides he will crush him first and worry about the how later on. Matsubara charges forward again, swinging that massive hammer with pure lethal intent. But our hero is way too fast, dodging with ease while taunting him for being a lot slower than before. Maguru knows his stuff. He just fought this guy, and there is no way he would forget how he moves. Plus, his own stats have surged since then, and his current weapon is on a whole different level. While our lead is busy analyzing the situation, his enemy swings the hammer again, desperate to end this fast. Maguru blocks with his powered-up sword, leaving his foe stunned. Even Izumi notices that Matsubara seems way weaker than their last fight. Fed up, Maguru decides to end this with one final strike, as red magical energy begins to swirl around his hands. His opponent, however, claims he has a secret trick up his sleeve. Maguru thinks it is just a desperate stall tactic and shuts him down. He lets loose a massive blast of fire magic that completely engulfs Matsubara in a huge explosion. Suddenly, two identical clones pop out. You and I are seeing triple now, and Nomi is just as confused as we are by these three versions. Kana is worried too, terrified that they will not be able to tell which one is the real deal. Our hero tries to figure out exactly when this guy learned a cloning ability like this. The clones start copying Maguru's own moves, one lunging with a sword while the other charges up fire magic. But Maguru notices something off. The techniques look the same, but the actual power behind them is way lower. Honestly, dealing with a bunch of copies like this is just a massive headache. A fire attack comes screaming toward him, and he realizes he cannot dodge it in time. He counters with his own fire magic, but with way more power, completely incinerating them. He bounces back instantly, telling his team he is perfectly fine and didn't take a single hit. Yet the clones are still standing. That is when Maguru spots something. The markings on their hands are actually different. The patterns on those emblems have shifted since the fight started. All these red flags confirm one thing: the Matsubara standing there is a total fake. Suddenly, it all clicks. He remembers that Hidaka Asahi can summon creatures. This guy is just using mimics that have taken on a human shape. So after the real Matsubara died, Hidaka just whipped up a fake copy to replace him. That power emblem on their hands is what lets them copy someone's face and their fighting style. But Maguru knows one crucial detail: Hidaka cannot actually copy a target's current stats. He bites his finger, letting blood flow over his mark of power as a massive, heavy energy starts pouring out of him. He shouts for the girls to get ready to move. These duplicates only have as much power as the magic Hidaka poured into them from the start. By splitting into two, they just cut their strength in half. This is the opening our hero was waiting for. He signals Nomi to strike, and she charges in, unleashing a brutal spinning slash. Trust me, you and I definitely want to see what happens next. One clone fires off an ice spell, while the other rushes in with its blade. Alright, you and I are jumping into the heat of battle, as Nomi barely blocks a lethal strike. From a distance, Kana prepares a nasty poison spell. Once it infects the duplicate, the monster starts feeling its strength drain away. Seeing the opening, Maguru moves in for a backstab, swinging his sword with absolute precision. He disarms the fake and scoffs. If this was the real Matsubara, things would be different. He would have predicted that move instantly. Maguru then drives his blade through its heart, turning the clone into dust. Our hero gives all the credit to his teammates, thanking them for having his back in the fight. Right then, Izumi launches a fire spell at the second clone, incinerating it until it completely disappears. He feels a brief moment of victory, but that satisfaction is quickly replaced by a heavy, nagging dread. Izumi wonders what Hidaka was planning with those fakes, but he decides to stop overthinking and keep moving. Now watch closely. The group is officially heading straight toward an S-rank dungeon. The girls had never stepped foot in a dungeon this dangerous before, surrounded by waves of monsters they had never even imagined. But Izumi proves these beasts are nothing to him, tearing through them with almost zero effort. At first, the girls assumed he was the only one on this godly level. They soon realized they can actually keep the pace. Even though these creatures are just as resilient as the ones outside, the girls are matching them blow for blow. Armed with new, high-performance weapons that demand everything from their users, the group manages to crush every enemy in sight. Fighting side by side is all the proof they need. They have grown immensely stronger, and both girls feel a rush of pride. As for Kana, she was feeling a bit overshadowed. I quickly tell her she is wrong, her power has skyrocketed, and she is just as strong as anyone. Finally, they reach the boss room and come face to face with a massive demon wearing heavy, soul-crushing armor. Without missing a beat, Nomi lunges forward, jumping high to deliver a devastating sword strike. The demon counters with a brutal strike of its own, forcing her to cancel her attack and dive back. Nomi realizes she has successfully baited the monster, which looks exactly like some kind of giant, ancient gargoyle. Stick with me, you and I know Izumi will use this opening to support her with ice. But shockingly, the creature does not even flinch when the ice shards hit its hide. Izumi uses the chaos as a distraction and sprints toward the gargoyle. He hits the monster right in its blind spot from behind, preparing to unleash one hell of a spell. A blast of violent purple energy erupts, completely vaporizing the monster and ending the fight right then and there. They celebrate the win, but Izumi quickly ruins the mood by warning them that the real nightmare is just starting. They stumble upon another portal, and Izumi tells the girls to stay sharp. Kana and Nomi honestly thought that Demon was the final boss, but the massive amount of mana leaking from the dungeon makes it clear this is not the final floor yet. It is an S-rank dungeon, after all, so you can bet there are plenty more rooms waiting for them. Stepping through the portal, they find themselves in a new area with a massive spiral staircase going up. Passing through the door, they get a warning that there is no turning back until the dungeon is cleared. Ready for the challenge, the group advances with pure determination. They climb the winding stairs until they reach a massive door on the very next level. Eerie purple torches light the room, which seems completely empty as I walk out into the very center. The second he reaches the middle, gargoyles start swarming from the shadows, appearing out of thin air. Izumi realizes that if they stick to their usual tactics, taking down these new flyers will not be a problem. The fight kicks off, and the team knows that as long as they stick together, they are basically unstoppable. Nomi rushes in, slicing through one monster while blocking incoming strikes. While she plays the tank and draws all the attention, Izumi lets loose his violent purple magic, thinning out the gargoyle swarm one by one. As he wipes them out, our reincarnated hero notices the monsters are getting a lot more cautious around him now. He is not alone though. While the gargoyles are busy staring him down, Nomi strikes them from behind. Getting hammered from both sides, the monsters finally start to lose their footing and break apart. Their stats are high, but they cannot coordinate their attacks. Izumi wonders if this is Matsubara's limit or just his personal preference. Honestly, for us, it does not even matter. Alright, you and I are about to watch Izumi turn these gargoyles into ice cubes with a massive magic rain. Kana is seriously impressed, suggesting they should stick to this style of fighting from now on. Izumi totally agrees. As long as they stay sharp and keep their precision up, they will be just fine. So, the crew pushes forward, clearing the dungeon level by level until they hit a fierce werewolf on floor 3. They crush an ogre on floor 4, finally reaching the 5th floor, the absolute final level of Matsubara's S-rank dungeon. And that is where things get terrifying. A massive nightmare of a dragon is waiting for them, looking just like a Sky Dungeon final boss. Izumi warns them it is go time. Even so, he is confident there is not a single monster they cannot take down as a team. He grips his blade tight, preparing to look that dragon right in its massive eyes. From the very moment they stepped into this room, there was no turning back. Even against a monster this strong, they have to win. Sticking to the plan, Nozomi rushes forward to draw the beast's attention. The dragon swings its massive tail right at her, but she is ready, dodging the blow with some seriously impressive agility. She leaps up high, matching the monster's height. At her level, she can still read its every move. But then, out of nowhere, a fireball comes screaming toward her and guys, this looks bad. Nozomi freezes up, closing her eyes as the hit feels completely impossible to dodge. Right at the last second, Maguru scoops her up, saving her from certain death while the dragon goes into a fire-breathing rage. Luckily, Kana is on it, conjuring powerful magic shields to protect the whole group. Those shields do not just save Maguru and Nozomi, they keep the entire team safe from the blast. Izumi notices how close Nozomi got to that dragon, a huge sign of her growth, even though she is still feeling insecure about freezing up in that moment. Meanwhile, Maguru sees a purple energy ball forming in the dragon's mouth and feels a literal chill down his spine. He knows they need to buy some time, and a smokescreen is the only option. He quickly casts a mist spell, completely blinding the dragon and leaving it totally disoriented. Even through that thick smoke, Maguru uses his search ability to see exactly what is happening. Kana starts to panic in the fog, so Maguru pulls her close, letting her know he can see everything just fine. Now watch this. It turns out the dragon is way smarter than it looks, assessing their skills and locking onto Kana. That same trick is not going to work twice. Maguru decides to swap Nozomi's position while Kana, their pink-haired healer, needs to hunker down and focus entirely on her defense. He puts a hand on her shoulder, telling her she is more than capable of handling this. He knows Kana is strong enough to protect herself now. If she believes in herself, he can go all out in this fight. Determined, the pink-haired girl grips her shield tight, promising the hero she will stay safe no matter what. From this point on, it is a strictly one-on-one showdown. Maguru draws his sword to face the dragon, which immediately starts blasting fire and unleashing its legendary, scorching breath. Maguru dodges the flames, his mind flashing to how incredibly strong Nozomi has become lately. He used to feel uneasy being the only protector, but trusting Nozomi to guard Kana finally gives him some peace. Now he can put every ounce of focus into taking down this final boss for the win. The dragon takes to the sky, raining down attacks and sharp stalactites that the hero blocks with his blade. Maguru manages to land a spell squarely on the dragon's back. But the beast is so incredibly tough, it does not even have a single scratch on it. It is clear that normal attacks are useless, but Maguru knows every monster has a weakness. Looking closer, he sees the joints are actually soft and surprisingly flexible. He just needs to hit them hard. He rushes in, but the dragon's aggression keeps him from getting a clean shot. The moment it lunges, he slides underneath the beast, ready to deliver a precise strike. That is when he finds it digging his blade deep into one of the dragon's soft joints. The monster lets out a pained roar as its vital fluid starts spraying everywhere. Bringing down a monster of that massive size with one hit is seriously impressive. Maguru levels his sword, ready to end this fight right now. The beast charges low, but Maguru feels something off, and trust me, we are not ready for this. Alright, you and I are watching this monster transform as its very magic starts to shift and evolve. It is a phase change triggered by heavy damage. The monster evolves and shoots its power through the roof. This is it. The dragon turns white, unleashing a massive green beam straight at our main character. Maguru swings his sword, pouring every ounce of strength into blocking that brutal, direct blast. He holds the line, but quickly realizes this isn't an attack he can just deflect away. The dragon's massive strength eventually prevails, and our main character is sent flying back by the impact. Worried sick, Kana immediately rushes over to heal him, but he shouts for her to stay back. If the dragon targets her, he knows he is finished. He cannot protect her and fight this thing at the same time. He is on his own. Kana is visibly frustrated that he is playing the hero again, but Maguru simply ignores it and downs a full health recovery potion. If he survives this nightmare, he promises himself that he will finally start trusting her more. He would prefer her healing, but if the dragon senses them using support magic, it will become a major problem. He needs to eliminate it fast. He leaps into the air, reaching the dragon's eye level just as it prepares that same deadly spell. Having seen this move before, the main character blasts magic downward, using the recoil to launch even higher. Dodging the blast, he draws his blade and sets his sights on the wings. He charges forward with everything he has, severing the wings with one surgical strike that sends the dragon howling in agony as it crashes down. But stick with me here. While preparing his next strike, the dragon lashes its tail toward him, interrupting the reincarnated hero's assault and forcing a quick dodge to survive. Despite its bulk, the monster is lightning fast. It lunges forward, slashing at Izumi Maguru with razor-sharp claws. Caught off guard, Maguru can't move in time. The blow hits home. He is slammed against the stone wall in pure agony. Watching from the sidelines, the girls are desperate to jump in and help him. Our hero knows gear can bridge small gaps, but this is different. The power disparity between him and this creature is just too massive to ignore right now. At a total disadvantage, he downs his recovery potion. He needs an exit, and that wall is it. His plan is simple: act as the bait so the girls can escape this death trap. He screams for them to listen as he targets the wall, but before he can even finish, the white dragon strikes again. A brutal tail swipe shatters his spell, completely ruining the escape plan. But Maguru reacts fast, summoning a magic shield to block the next strike. He remembers that only his amulet saved him from a fatal blow, but looking at this titan, he cannot find a single opening. Now pay attention, because that purple mark is starting to glow again. The system offers him a choice: activate the Crest of Duty and gain absolute, godlike power. Maguru knows this power is enough to kill the beast. But the catch? If the target doesn't die in 300 seconds, he dies instead. The dragon roars. The pressure is insane. He hesitates. His answer is no. Sacrificing himself won't keep Kana safe once he's gone. He needs a better way. He decides they are all getting out of here alive. He might be the bait, but he's not dying today. He starts a spell. He freezes the dragon's massive limbs to the floor. But just as he feels confident, the monster shatters it. Suddenly, A new winged mark appears on his hand. It's the Crest of Hope. 30 seconds of power, with absolutely zero risk involved. He activates it. His stats surge by 500 points as energy floods his body. 30 seconds isn't long, but he's betting it's enough. He charges. The dragon's claws are moving in slow motion now. The dragon starts charging a poisonous breath attack. He goes all in, leaping forward and using magic propulsion to close the gap. Trust me. You and I are about to see the final blow. You and I are jumping in just as he launches his ice spear against that dragon breath. Both powers collided in a fierce struggle of pure energy until the monster took a direct hit, losing the clash and falling dead once and for all. Just as you'd expect from an S-rank dungeon, our hero scored a massive double attribute boost. On top of that, he gained 50 extra points thanks to the Crest of Duty, a perk of his Crest of Hope. This new mark didn't drain his energy like the others, leaving him curious about its origin. By the end, he even walked away with the legendary Crest of Souls. He didn't see any physical changes, but he wondered if Matsubara's power was finally his to command. Right then, Kana came running out, screaming his name before pulling him into a desperate, tight hug. Our reborn hero showed her he was okay, calming his sister's fears, even as she noticed his sudden spike in power. Nomi questioned if letting the enemy lower its guard was all part of the master plan. Maguru admitted it wasn't. He just felt a strange, massive surge of energy that he couldn't quite explain yet. He promised to explain everything later, but for now, they needed to get out of that place immediately. Even with all the unanswered questions, he was just relieved they'd finally cleared the entire dungeon. Now, stick with me, we need to jump back 8 hours to see how this all started. Futaba and Hidaka watched the plane's landing and knew the time had come. While in the central district, skeletons rattled against fences to lure in a guard. Futaba used her skeletons to trick the man before casting a deadly spell to take him out. She dropped him instantly just because he dared to touch her with his filthy hands. With a malicious look in their eyes, the girls whispered that the real fun was finally beginning. Nomi suggested heading for the airport, but Maguru thought that walk was way too far. Despite the complaints, they reached the evacuation camp only to find it overflowing with injured survivors. Kana looked on in horror, while Ayumi noted that the damage caused by these monsters was permanent. His sister, Kana, could tell he was speaking from a place of deep personal pain. Inside a tent, Maguru started grilling a group of hunters about how bad the damage really was. They explained the situation was critical, with too many wounded and zero healers to help them. Izumi wanted to do something, but felt totally useless. Being jobless, he felt this task was simply beyond his skill level. Even for a pro like Kana, the problem was just too big. That's when Kana asked Maguru for a favor. She needed to borrow his mana since her own was running dry. She explained that while healers aren't great at direct life restoration, they are absolute masters at moving magical power around. This meant they could save everyone by pulling energy from others and sharing it with those who were dying. You and I are watching a literal miracle as everyone's wounds suddenly begin to vanish. The people were in shock, but Kana just thanked Maguru, knowing it was his mana that saved them all. Izumi was stunned, admitting he could never pull off a stunt like that. He praised his sister's incredible skill while Nomi jumped in for a celebratory hug, cheering for everyone they'd just saved. Once things settled, Maguru dropped the big news the monsters were done for because they had cleared the dungeon. Everyone was shocked. He explained that someone had clearly taken out Matsubara, which is why the dungeon went into a total frenzy and unleashed all those creatures. While everyone wondered who could beat a former hero, Maguru had a secret theory about a fake Matsubara left behind by Hidaka. Given how messy things were, he couldn't think of any other person behind this. The hunters were so grateful. They praised the legendary power of Japanese hunters like Maguru. He was about to report everything to the branch head when 2 urgent voice messages caught him completely by surprise. The first recording was the chief, screaming that something absolutely disastrous had just happened. The second message warned that Futaba and Hidaka had launched their attack, and thousands of S-rank dungeons were now appearing across Tokyo. The chief even apologized for making Izumi and Maguru come back home while they were still exhausted. The message was 7 hours old, and trust me, you and I are about to see Hidaka's final scheme involving those fragmented magic crystals unfold. Alright, you and I are going to see why he had no other option but to collect them one by one. But Hidaka claimed he was on a different level from the other heroes. He summoned his beasts to haul magic stones across Japan. His plan? Dead simple. By using the massive amount of mana in these stones, the crystal fragments would naturally drift toward the remnants of the Sky Dungeon. Hidaka was ambitious. He knew all he had to do was wait for those magic crystals to be his. Futaba snapped some photos of the crystals, totally impressed. She asked when this plan would actually happen, and Hidaka said it would take about 6 more hours to materialize. Totally annoyed, Futaba headed back to the hotel. She told him to call if she was needed. Hidaka just thought she was being childish and said a temporary goodbye. Hidaka knew Japan's hunters, like Maguru, were still busy over in China. As long as nothing went wrong, he could handle this alone. Only a little longer until he became a god. Now pay attention, the remnants of that old sky dungeon are suddenly starting to glow. It collapsed hundreds of years ago, but the traces were still there. Plus, there were signs of Hidaka and Futaba nearby, though only the big guy was visible right now. The association head warned that former hero Hidaka was likely involved. Hidaka was neck-deep in this, and for now, Maguru and his team were the only ones they could trust now, counting on them to fix the situation. Finally, the hunter team touched down in Tokyo. Noi asked Maguru if he could even fight with a broken sword. Maguru flashed back to the dragon's attack that shattered his weapon into pieces. Luckily, Izumi had enough stones left to forge a perfect replica of the blade that broke. Maguru grabbed his new sword, and together they took flight over the area. Right at that instant, our reincarnated hero met Hidaka, and the real battle was ready to begin. After all this time, Hidaka was totally caught off guard by Maguru's sudden arrival. He was stunned by how fast the protagonist appeared. Just look at the look on his face. Maguru realized this guy was the one behind Matsubara's death, but Hidaka was convinced he'd already won. He thought there was nothing Maguru could do to stop him. Maguru knew he had to end Hidaka right now to stop his plans. He activated the mark on his hand, sending the enemy into immediate shock. Suddenly, clones of Maguru appeared, alongside duplicates of the fallen Matsubara. I know what you're thinking, Hidaka's finished. But he's desperate to finish his plan. Seeing his enemy sweat, Maguru called in Nomi and Ka to end this fight as fast as possible. The three grabbed their swords as Maguru's handmark lit up. He prepared to unleash his magic and create an absolutely unique aura that would shake the battlefield. Maguru charged in while Kana cast her spell and Noi stayed right by his side. The strength of these copies depended entirely on how much magic Hidaka pumped into them. More clones seemed like a win, but splitting his magic 5 ways made them individually weaker. Nomi threw her axe, but a clone caught it and swung right back at her. The clone's strike barely missed the girl, but she managed to dodge just in time. He attacked again, but Nomi blocked with her shield and sent that clone flying. As it tried to recover, Maguru appeared and slammed it down. As the clones fell, Hidaka started losing it. Only 2 clones were left, and one was holding a massive shield. Then, one of the girls, Nomi, charged forward. She swung her weapon, but it hit that giant shield with a thud. The clone just smirked and used the shield to toss the girl away. A punch sent her reeling and wounded. She realized these clones were way stronger than the ones in China, and wondered what was happening. She wondered what was going on as all 5 clones stood back up, more powerful than before. One clone blasted fire at Maguru, but he dodged easily. Maguru noticed the spike in power. Why weren't they hitting with everything they had from the start? He decided to go all out with an extremely powerful technique to end this once and for all. Thorns erupted from the ground, but the shield clone blocked them. Maguru used that opening to rush in low, attacking where the target couldn't see him. Talk about tough skin, stick with me. Because this fight is just getting started. Stick with me. Maguru is finally decoding secrets of those aggressive clones. Their defense is rock solid, so why bother dodging when they could just tank the hits and strike back? He is weighing his options and formulating a plan. To prove his theories once and for all, he finally draws his blade. While the girls grab their phones, he crouches low and weaves a spell right into the floor. A massive ice barrier erupts, splitting the clones apart as the trio charges straight into the fray. Maguru lunges at 2 copies, delivering a brutal slash that sends them crashing down in a heap. One clone swings a flimsy sword, but Maguru effortlessly parries, snaps the blade in 2, and hurls the fake away with insane force. Another clone goes for a punch, but Maguru has a deadly spell locked and loaded. Now watch this. An enormous ice stake erupts, skewering the replica right through its chest as his strategy to divide and conquer the enemies finally pays off. With Kana providing backup support and Nozomi handling the heavy shield work, they are finally ready to push the offensive. The girls are perfectly in sync now. Kana grabs the fingers of the clone, instantly shutting down its magic before it can fire. Nozomi takes the opening and lets her sword do the talking, wiping out the enemies in one clean strike. Magura's plan is working, and they have taken down the heavy hitters. Turns out, these fakes are not balanced at all. One hits like a truck but shatters like glass, while the magic user is totally helpless in a physical brawl. They are specialists, not all-rounders. Because of that, Magura's strategy is actually pretty simple. Find the hole in their defense and hit them where it hurts. You and I both know Hidaka messed up by underestimating them. Maguru has seen through every cheap trick and is ready to make him pay for it. Hidaka is desperately stalling for 5 more minutes. He thinks his plan is flawless, but he has already set up extra precautions just in case things go south. This is all a test. With the clones gone, Hidaka gets cocky, claiming that Magura's chance of winning has officially dropped to a big fat 0%. Maguru just smirks, ready to prove him wrong. Using the crest of false abilities, he prepares to mirror his own power right back at the villain. Hidaka raises the crystal, and in a flash, Dozens of copies of himself materialize out of thin air. Maguru is not impressed. He saw this coming and knows the end result is going to be exactly the same. He summons a volley of fireballs and rains them down on the massive clones. Through the thick smoke, the remaining clones use the crystal to summon something absolutely massive. A terrifying centipede lunges out from the shadows, catching Maguru completely off guard with an extremely fast and powerful tail strike that packs one hell of a punch. Then portals open up, dumping an entire army of skeletons onto the field. Maguru is pinned. He cannot dodge in time as the skeletal mountain collapses on top of him, crushing him under the weight. But our hero is not done. He bursts upward, scattering bones everywhere as Hidaka scoffs at the wasted effort. The villain claims he does not need overwhelming power or defense. As long as his stats stay balanced, he will win. Maguru watches closely. Hidaka only guards the exact spots where the attacks are about to land. It is a problem. Hidaka is burning through the Philosopher's Stone mana to keep those copies coming. If he truly has unlimited mana, then every second this fight drags on puts our heroes in even more danger. A skeleton lunges at Maguru, but he is already counterattacking with lethal precision. Outnumbered and outgunned, Maguru finally decides it is time to play his trump card. He asks Hidaka if he has ever heard of the Crest of Souls. This is the legendary power he snatched after successfully conquering Matsubara's dungeon. A glowing red mark appears on his hand. He just needs a Philosopher's Stone, the same kind used to duplicate the entirety of Japan. Now, Maguru cannot copy other people the way Hidaka can, but for this fight, his version is way better. He starts fueling the mark with raw energy. He charges in, unleashing Matsubara's true ability with devastating force. Hidaka's face says it all. The villain is absolutely stunned. He has never heard of this technique. Seeing a perfect clone of Maguru was the last thing he expected. The first Maguru blasts purple magic while the second dives at the centipede with his blade. The coordinated strike absolutely tears into the giant centipede. The girls are left amazed, totally confused about which Maguru is actually the real one. They figure the one holding the sword right in front of them has to be the real deal. Maguru explains Hidaka's power is just summoning, but both versions of himself are real. Trust me, it only gets wilder from here. Alright, stick with me. We are about to see Maguru literally split his soul in two to double his combat power. Right then, both versions of him unleashed massive lightning magic and charged straight for the enemy. Think about it, two versions of himself meant he was bringing twice the firepower to the fight. We see that power in action as a single lightning bolt completely obliterates a giant centipede monster. Even Hidaka gets sent flying, giving our main character the perfect opening to slip right behind him. Maguru did not hesitate, delivering a brutal slash through Hidaka. That wiped out the hero's copy, leaving only the original who was now absolutely terrified of that specialized attack. But Maguru was determined to win with overwhelming power. He found a massive opening and used the moment to tear Hidaka's entire arm off. Honestly, Maguru thought this victory was way easier than he had originally imagined. Hidaka was in total despair over his missing arm, while Maguru demanded to know exactly where Futaba was hiding. Now, pay attention, because this is where the mana source overloads and the crystal finally reaches completion. He started laughing like a maniac, declaring he had already won the war. He tried desperately to crawl toward the crystal, but Maguru ended the villain by stabbing him in the back, leaving the girls stunned. With Hidaka finally dealt with, Maguru stepped forward and took the glowing crystal into his hands. Suddenly, the system asked if he wanted to use the mana crystal to gain divinity itself. Our hero was confused by the offer, while the dying villain screamed at him to hand over the crystal. Maguru was shocked the guy was still alive. Hidaka claimed the object was useless in Maguru's hands and that he should hand it over. Maguru just shot back that he would be the one making the final decisions here. He demanded to know exactly what the item did and why Hidaka was so desperate to get his hands on it. Depending on the answer, he would consider the request. Struggling to even speak, Hidaka revealed that the crystal would transform him into a literal god, ordering Maguru to hand it over right now. Even without the full details, Maguru knew giving the enemy that kind of power was a terrible idea, so he refused. Hidaka pointed around them, showing how the crystal's energy was already tearing reality apart and forming new dungeons. He warned that if they stayed exposed to the crystal much longer, those dungeons would fully stabilize. Hidaka argued that Japan simply didn't have the military power to clear these dungeons. He claimed he didn't want meaningless sacrifices and needed godhood to stop them. Maguru told him to shut up, realizing that without the power of a god, this mess probably could not be fixed at all. But he was not letting this villain control the fate of the entire population. Instead, Maguru decided he would become a god himself. Without hesitation, Maguru clicked the yes button on the system prompt. You and I both saw that coming. The system informed him the transformation failed because he lacked the qualifications. Hidaka explained that only a dungeon master could achieve divinity. He warned that monsters would emerge to invade the earth, asking if Maguru was really willing to let everyone die because of his pride. He compared it to Maguru murdering them himself, leaving our hero unsure of what to do next. He realized there might be no other way to stop the disaster without the crystal. Feeling completely trapped, he looked at Hidaka, who was just waiting for him to surrender the item. Suddenly, a portal opened behind Kana, and skeletons began reaching for her feet. Hidaka insisted that Maguru make a quick decision if he did not want the girl to get hurt, but Maguru ended the villain with a strike to the head. For our hero, trying to harm Kana was the one crime he would never forgive. Filled with pure rage, he finished Hidaka off. With the former hero gone, Maguru was left wondering what to do next. He considered finding another dungeon master and handing the crystal over to them. He thought about Futaba for a second, but quickly discarded that. Knowing she could be a problem, Kana suggested they all think of a solution together. The moment Maguru handed the crystal to his sister, it began to pulse and glow in her hands. And that's where we leave it, with Kana claiming she can use the item, and our hero trusting her completely. Stick with me, you and I are about to see Kana's mind get flooded with memories of a past life she never knew existed. Even if the details were a total blur, she knew these memories could turn the tide. She focused in, trying to map out the flow of magic pouring from the mana crystal. Once she caught the rhythm of the energy, she moved to bend and lock it down tight. Just like that, the crystal's power flickered out and the dungeon's walls started fading into nothing. Everyone was stunned, but Kana explained it was just a seal meant to organize the wild magic from the crystal. The magic was sealed. Maguru could only wonder where she'd learned a technique so advanced. Kana told him that touching the crystal triggered a massive memory dump from another life. She wasn't even sure if it would work, but she somehow managed to seal the crystal. Our main character was convinced this was the power of reincarnation. It made sense for the heroine to pull this off, even if her memories hadn't fully returned just yet. Maguru didn't care about the details, it worked. He simply thanked his little sister for saving his life. Right then, Maguru's phone rang. It was the hunter chief, who'd been watching the whole thing live. Now pay attention, because the chief warns that it's too early to celebrate. Even with Hidaka down, the threat of Futaba is still very real. Maguru figured finding her would be easy since he'd already taken her down once before. But the chief had a surprise. They already had a lock on Futaba's exact location. Cut to Futaba. She's perched on a skyscraper, eyes glued to her drone's video feed. She realized this trio was way stronger than she bargained for. With her partner gone, she knew she was the next head on the chopping block. Knowing she was in deep trouble, she bolted, desperate to get as far away as possible. She hit a police blockade, but before she could turn back, a massive fireball came screaming right for her head. Izumi taunted her about escaping, and Futaba realized she'd just walked into the worst-case scenario. She noticed Maguru was standing all by himself. His powerful friends hadn't caught up yet. She thought he was just stalling for time, but Maguru surprised her by declaring he was going to end her right here. Futaba just gave him a mocking smirk. Did he really think he could face her alone? She claimed his strength wasn't even close to enough. In response, the furious villain told him not to underestimate her, immediately raining down a storm of lethal spells. Our hero didn't blink. He danced through the chaos, dodging every single blast without a scratch. That's when Futaba spotted an old lady on the street and heartlessly aimed her next attack at the innocent woman. Maguru's sharp instincts screamed at him. He lunged forward to shield the old woman, taking the full force of the magical explosion right against his own back to keep her safe. Futaba just laughed, mocking Maguru and calling his effort a total disappointment. As he hit the pavement, she called the fight anticlimactic, clearly enjoying her victory a little too much. But then, Maguru appeared right behind her. The body on the ground? Just a decoy clone. You and I are seeing the real Maguru now. He used the Crest of Souls to trick her and buy himself some time. Futaba was fuming. Nobody told her this guy could create perfect copies of himself. Our hero wasn't interested in talking. He just charged straight at her with full force. Maguru closed the gap in a blur of speed, while Futaba scrambled to cast counterspells. He sent fireballs flying, which she barely blocked, before drawing his sword to deliver a barrage of slashes that nearly took her head off. Somehow, the enemy managed to dodge every single blow with crazy dexterity. Maguru could see she was gassing out. He knew it was time to press the advantage and strike again. Suddenly, Nomi sprinted onto the scene, sliding in right next to our reincarnated protagonist. She suggested a pincer trap to corner Futaba. Ever since touching the crystal, the healer's power level had completely shifted. To show off her new tricks, she slammed her scepter into the ground with incredible force. Raw energy exploded outward, and Futaba finally realized she was now facing both girls at once. Seeing them so happy just fueled Futaba's rage. She screamed that she was going to kill them both. She fired off a barrage of homing missiles at Nomi, but the healer walked through the explosions untouched. As she emerges from the smoke unscathed, trust me, you and I are about to see Futaba regret ever starting this fight. Let's dive in. Nomi strikes, but Futaba blocks the blade with her shield. But Maguru is already circling behind her, completely hidden from Futaba's sight. Centuries ago, Nomi was chosen for the Sky Dungeon for a reason. Besides being a healer, she was a master-level defender. That meant Nomi could press the attack without any fear, because in that very moment, Nomi lunges out and slices her arm, landing a perfect hit. Then Maguru follows up with a magic-powered punch to her back. The villain takes massive damage, sent flying back by the weight of that brutal strength. But Futaba is still standing, and Nomi and Maguru move in to surround her again. Desperation sets in. She knows if this keeps up, she is definitely going to die. She hates using this power since it is not her style, but she cannot afford to be picky now. Now pay attention. She activates the mark on her hand, and our heroes decide to end this right now. Black wings sprout from her back as she dodges Nomi's attack with insane speed. She vanishes instantly, reappearing on top of a traffic light. Then she fully transforms into a beast, growing fangs and haunting black eyes to match those wings. Futaba is furious that she has to look this hideous just to win. Suddenly, she takes flight and hovers right above them. She fires a magic missile spell, but Maguru steps in and blocks the projectiles with his sword. Giving them zero time to react, the transformed Futaba charges down at them with pure hatred. She unleashes a blur of high-speed strikes and lands a heavy punch on Nomi. The force sends the healer flying until she passes out. Maguru realizes that the power boost is one thing, but those wings are the real problem. Our hero thought he had secured the win by making this a 3 versus 1 fight. But after this transformation, that tactical advantage they had? It is completely gone now. Maguru knows they cannot win unless they clip those wings. Nomi finally wakes up and asks how they will pull that off. Maguru has no plan, and honestly doesn't even know if they will get a chance to try. Thanks to the Crest of Souls, he finally figures out how to trigger the marks. He activates the crest on his hand. Maguru feels the power surging. With this boost, he believes he can actually take her down. But there is a catch. If he doesn't beat Futaba within 300 seconds, he is dead. He is not fazed because the mark shows him the path to victory. Meanwhile, Kana uses her magic to strengthen both Maguru and Nomi for the final push. With the buffs and the crest active, Maguru can finally unleash his spells with massive, upgraded power. As she takes the hits, Futaba starts wondering just how many crests Maguru is hiding. Still, she hides behind her magic shield, confident that these attacks cannot actually hurt her. But as the blows land, she realizes that Maguru's crests don't actually seem that special. That is when Nomi catches her off guard, rushing in at high speed with a charged strike. Maguru and Kana put everything on Nomi. She swings her sword with every ounce of strength she has left, but Nomi misses. Futaba dodges and lands a brutal counter to her stomach, sending Nomi plummeting toward the ground from a very dangerous height indeed. Without thinking, Maguru leaps between the buildings. He catches her mid-air and lands safely. Nomi only survived that last hit because of Kana's protective barrier. Nomi asks for a quick heal, then actually apologizes for missing her strike on the villain. Maguru thanks Nomi because he finally understands how Futaba's ability works. Meanwhile, the villain flies toward their hiding spot. Even after their strikes, she thinks they are still too weak. She taunts them, asking if that is all they have. Maguru thinks about his Crest of Hope powerful, but only usable once a day. You and I know he is down to one shot. He has to rely on the Crest of Duty now. There are only 60 seconds left. He starts dropping down from the building. It is time to move. He dodges her spells and fires ice crystals before charging up a massive sword strike that hits her shield. They are locked in a struggle of pure power, but once Futaba starts losing, she tries to fly away. She knows she has the edge as long as she stays away, so she keeps flying higher. Faced with a barrage of spells, Maguru shouts that she is not the only one who can fly. Using his mark, he rockets up to her level. Trust me. You and I are about to see her world get rocked. Stick with me. You and I are about to watch Futaba lose a wing and spiral down for a bone-shattering impact. Our main character burned through his mana reserves by activating his high-cost anti-gravity ability. It was a life-saving move that gave him the perfect opening. He seized the moment, leaving the villain grounded, bleeding, and down one wing. Now the tables have turned. It is 3 against 1 with Futaba broken and helpless on the ground. Desperation kicks in as the enemy starts sobbing, begging them not to end her life. Through her tears and transformation, she pleads for mercy. Izumi Maguru just smiles, playing along like he might actually listen. Just as a tiny spark of hope flickers in her eyes, our hero reveals the cold, hard truth. Mercy was never an option. Terrified, she offers him anything to survive and even starts stripping away her clothes. But our hero is completely unfazed by her desperate offer and prepares to end this villain. He drives his blade straight through Futaba's chest, finally putting a bloody end to his long revenge. Staring at the Crest of Duty, Maguru's vision starts to fade, as exhaustion nearly knocks him unconscious. Kana and Nozomi rush to his side, praising his victory. With the battle over, the trio heads toward the Hunter Association. Now pay attention, the chief hands them coffee, apologizing for the brutal fight while commending them on their absolutely legendary performance. Seeing the magic crystal, The chief suggests that the association should take it into their custody. Maguru shuts that down instantly, keeping the crystal. Surprisingly, the chief realizes he actually trusts the boy more than his very own organization. Even with the seal active, the crystal still holds its power. If that seal breaks, endless dungeons will flood the world. There are only two ways to unlock it. Either Kana releases it herself, or she dies. But who knows if some other dark method exists out there. Holding onto it is the safest play. Even though every other hero group will be hunting them down. Maguru knows that keeping this item makes them a massive target for every villain around. But that is exactly what he wants. Nomi looks at the group and asks what their next move is. The chief explains that once a dungeon master dies, their entire dungeon collapses within 2 weeks. If the local hunters fail, they will have to clear it themselves. The thought of 2 S-rank dungeons crashing at once terrifies Noi. The chief tells them to talk with the authorities later. For now, they just need to get some rest. Okay, I know what you are thinking, but check this out. Ancient heroes are waking up all over the world. Over in Chile, another ancient heroine receives word that Kana has returned. And deep in Egypt, an ancestral hero senses that things are finally shifting. They quickly realize Maguru can actually steal crests. The Peruvian hero, Tsurumi, now prepares for his departure to settle this once and for all. Armed with his legendary bow, he charts a path through Paris toward Tokyo, vowing with absolute conviction that he will handle this threat. As for the heroine, she realizes the stone they found is actually the legendary magic crystal. Even though she thinks Hidaka was a total loser, he accidentally made finding it much easier. Plus, everyone saw that Maguru is now wielding Matsubara's power. Everyone is wondering exactly how he pulled that off. The woman realizes they left Shirashi aside, and Tsurumi has surely figured that out too. She quickly decides to fly straight from London into the heart of Tokyo. 4 days later, she arrives in Tokyo. Finding it weird that a massive spell is being used to clear civilians from the area. Suddenly, an explosion rips toward her. She barely blocks it with a magic shield, realizing it came from Tsurumi's golden arrow. She knew he would show up, but Tsurumi just happened to spot her landing in the city. He followed her immediately. Tsurumi jokes that it is a pretty rude welcome after all this time apart. The archer ignites the mark on his hand and unleashes a lethal hail of arrows. He declares that they were always destined to kill each other, even if they used to be allies. Using his hero's crest, he launches magic-infused attacks. The insane speed and sheer number of these shots turn the entire area into a massive kill zone. Reacting instantly, the mage activates her legendary Crest of Wisdom. She amplifies her magic using the mana from dragon veins. Channeling that energy, she hurls a massive, terrifying fireball straight at the archer. He desperately tries to stop the blast with his arrows. He flees as the magic hits, triggering a massive, earth-shattering blast. Trust me, you and I are definitely going to want to see who survives this next part. Let's dive into a high-speed clash where agility is everything. She realizes a one-on-one fight won't end easily for either side. It's simply too early to call a winner in this duel. But suddenly, the archer sprouts black wings. Using the Saint's Crest, he transforms into a grotesque, demonic form with massive wings. Once those wings flare to life, he takes to the air, charging a massive radiant arrow before unleashing it with the terrifying roar of thunder. The energy-filled arrow slams into the mage's shoulder, surging through her body with agonizing shocks of raw electricity. Satisfied with the hit, the archer flies off, leaving the fight behind. The mage watches with burning hatred, swearing she'll never forgive him. Elsewhere, our main character, Maguru, is busy asking who exactly managed to clear that brand new dungeon. Kana points out that the urgent call was specifically about the Hidaka and Futaba dungeons. It looks like Tsurumi and Kawasaki cleared them, fueling suspicions that they're hunting for the legendary inheritance crest. Naomi adds that photos of Maguru wearing the Matsubara crest are already going viral all over the internet. Our hero is stronger than ever, and trust me, you and I need to see how they share this intel with the world. Maguru then thinks back to what went down on the first floor of the Sky Dungeon in his previous life. Back then, he begged Kawasaki to take the mission seriously, but she just didn't want to put in the effort. She thought her magic was so strong that others should just pave the way for her. Maguru was only asking for basic teamwork. Instead, she blames Kana, claiming the girl was useless and just a bystander on the team. Hearing that made Maguru absolutely furious with her. While they're discussing Tsurumi, a sudden knock echoes at the door in the middle of the night. Tsurumi himself is standing there, greeting Maguru after all this time. Without a word, Maguru draws his sword, launching an immediate attack to capitalize on this unexpected chance to strike. The girls inside just assume it's another one of Maguru's many fans, since he's been super popular since the broadcast, even gaining an unofficial fan club of girls who adore him. Kana goes to check the door with Naomi. When they step out, they find the protagonist mid-battle with the archer. They recognize him instantly as the former bow hero who was part of the group 100 years ago. Tsurumi insists he didn't come for a fight and begs Maguru to stop his relentless assault. Our hero pauses, pressing his blade against Tsurumi's throat, demanding to know what he's actually doing there. The archer reveals he knows Maguru is a reincarnated soul and came to apologize for the betrayal a century ago. Maguru isn't buying this apology one bit, and honestly, you and I both know he's right to suspect a deadly trap designed to catch him off guard. To Maguru, the former hero's crimes are far too deep to be settled with a few simple words of regret. Telling him to reflect on his sins in the afterlife, Maguru prepares to deliver a finishing sword strike. Even with death staring him down, Tsurumi screams that he was actually against their actions until the very end. He reveals he was coerced. If he had defended Maguru and his sister, he would have been killed right alongside them. Kana jumps in, holding Maguru back and pleading with him to at least hear Tsurumi out before he strikes. Giving in slightly, Maguru decides to offer him a single chance and lowers his weapon. They sit to talk, and Tsurumi explains he's here to apologize for abandoning them and letting them be murdered. As a hero, he should have led by example, but instead, he committed an unforgivable act of cowardice. He admits that being threatened by the others isn't a valid excuse for what he did, and that's why he's ready to face judgment for their deaths. Maguru stands up, declaring that it's finally time for his reckoning. The archer argues that killing him now won't actually change the past, and Maguru agrees, but notes it would feel great and remove a major threat to his sister, Kana. He realizes that even without Tsurumi, Kawasaki and Shirishi still have other heroes, some even more powerful than the archer. Because of this, Tsurumi doesn't even bother asking for forgiveness. Instead, he offers to aid Maguru's revenge by leaking hero secrets and doing whatever dirty work is needed. Once the revenge is complete, Maguru can do whatever he wants with him, whether he lives or dies. Maguru draws his blade for the kill, but trust me, you and I are going to be shocked by where that steel actually lands. Alright, stick with me because Maguru was only testing him to see if he was actually a trustworthy companion. He is willing to give Tsurumi's proposal a real shot. For Tsurumi, that was all the opening he needed. He promised right then and there to prove his words through honorable action. The plan was set. The next day, he would head to the Hunters Association with them to spill everything he knew. The archer agreed. Later, the girls asked Maguru how much he actually trusted the guy's story. Our hero's take was that Tsurumi definitely wants to defeat the other heroes. But what happens after that is anyone's guess. As long as their goals lined up for now, it was fine. Still, Nomi was surprised by just how calm Maguru was. He explained that Tsurumi simply wasn't strong enough to be a threat. Even after a few blows, Maguru knew his own stats completely outclassed the archer. Even if Tsurumi decided to pull a double cross, Maguru could shut him down in an instant. That absolute confidence is why he is so chill. Meanwhile, in a D-rank dungeon, a massive scorpion is closing in on a hunter. The hunter, cheered on by his pink-haired girlfriend Manami, lands a perfect strike, finishing off the beast. The two lovebirds finally head out of the dungeon just in time for dinner. He was planning to propose right after the meal. But just as the nerves were hitting, he felt someone else approaching. Kawasaki suddenly appears, mocking them by saying a duo clearing D rank isn't bad. She claims the man passed her test, but poor Manami, she failed miserably. The man is furious at the mage's sudden intrusion, having absolutely no clue what she is talking about. Now watch this. Kawasaki activates her mark of wisdom, demanding he become her mindless pawn. Completely bewitched, Kakeru obeys her every command, leaving Manami in total shock. Under the spell, Kakeru stands up and starts hurling insults at the woman he loves. Then comes the unthinkable. Kawasaki orders Kakeru to kill his own girlfriend. Overwhelmed by her mental force, he plunges his sword right through Manami's chest. The ancient hero is on the hunt for 3 more pawns to control, just like puppets. Back at the Hunters Association, Maguru brings Tsurumi in to speak with the chief. Maguru asks the chief for his trust, promising that if anything goes sideways, he will take care of it personally. The chief gets the vibe and decides to leave the whole situation entirely in Maguru's hands. Our hero makes it clear he's only doing this because the archer is useful, not because he has forgiven him for what happened 100 years ago. He then demands that Tsurumi hand over every single scrap of intel he has. Maguru hoped Kawasaki didn't know about their new teammate. If Tsurumi plays his cards right as a double agent, they could use that advantage to bring the enemies down. But hold on. It looks like the archer realized he forgot to mention one tiny detail. Turns out, Kawasaki already knows. This news irritates the chief, so Tsurumi explains they actually crossed paths in a fight recently. He wanted to bring Maguru actual proof that he wasn't lying, but the mage managed to slip away. The good news? She doesn't know Tsurumi and Maguru are actually working together now. It's about to be 4 versus 1, and the odds are looking great. Even so, Kana warns them not to get cocky. Maguru then asks the chief to pinpoint exactly where the mage is hiding, but Tsurumi quickly speaks up, telling them they won't even need the association's help for that. He explains that Kawasaki's unique mana is still lingering in her wounds, allowing them to track her down with pinpoint accuracy. The only thing left was to decide when to strike, and they figured tomorrow would be the perfect time to move in. Some thought it was too long of a wait, but Maguru pointed out that Nomi was busy today. He didn't want to be the guy who made her cancel plans with her friends. Tsurumi agreed that this was the right call. The archer then breaks down Kawasaki's specialty. The more time she has to prepare, the more dangerous she gets. He reveals her unique ability is a terrifying form of magical hypnosis that turns people into dolls. Meanwhile, over in a B-rank dungeon, Nomi and her crew are locked in a fierce battle with a giant orc. Using their combined magic, the pink-haired Nomi maneuvers like a pro, quickly getting behind the beast. The orc senses her and swings, but Nomi doesn't even flinch, blocking the massive strike with her shield. In one fluid motion, the monster takes a heavy hit to its back before she delivers the final, splitting blow. Just like that, they successfully clear the entire B-rank dungeon. Her friends, Hikari and Sakura, are absolutely blown away, since clearing a B rank is usually a total nightmare for them. Nomi is just happy to be back in action with her team. Her friends can't help but notice how much she's grown. They're all just glad to be together again, and Nomi decides to just relax and forget about her worries for the day. But trust me, you and I know the peace won't last. Kawasaki just appeared to congratulate them. Alright, you and I are about to dive into a twisted game of hypnosis. She finds their strength impressive while 4 mind-controlled men stand behind her. Nomi freezes, realizing the legendary Kawasaki Masato is right there. The mage declares that Nomi's friends failed the test. Only Nomi passed, but her reward? She is now the main prize. Nomi is totally lost, questioning what she means by failed and what this main prize business is all about. Kawasaki does not stutter. She explains that with her magic, she is going to add Nomi to her growing collection. The group finally gets it. Those men are actually action hunters who are now puppets controlled by her magic. Facing a threat this big, Nomi tells Hikari and Sakura to run. They cannot win this fight. They need to find Izumi and Maguru for help and explain everything as fast as they can. But Kawasaki only wants Nozomi. She unleashes her crest, trying to force the girl into a deep trance. Nomi fights the spell with everything she has, even as a sharp, blinding pain tears through her head. She pushes back, but dark visions fill her mind. Images of her friends betraying her and wanting her position. Despite the mental assault, Nozomi senses something is wrong and refuses to let the magic take hold. Realizing it is all a lie, she hears her friends' voices in her heart and breaks free from the spell. Kawasaki is stunned. Her hypnosis crest never fails. This just proves Nomi really is a one-of-a-kind prize. Now, pay attention here. Seeing an opening, the trio charges forward, sprinting straight toward the deadly mage. The villain reveals her secret. The magic is way more powerful when she actually touches someone's head. She lunges, grabbing Nomi's head. Nomi collapses instantly, gasping for her friends to run while she still can. In that moment, the sorceress gives a chilling command. She orders the girl to eliminate her own friends. Struggling against the overwhelming magic, Nomi's voice cracks as she begs Hikari and Sakura to just leave. The sorceress realizes this is going to take way more effort than she originally thought. Her friends apologize, promising to come back for her. Suddenly, the pink-haired girl is completely enchanted, and her expression changes drastically. With no other choice, her friends sprint toward Maguru's house, desperate to find someone who can help. Maguru notices Nomi's absence right away and asks what happened. The girls rush in, explaining that Kawasaki kidnapped her. That is when Terumi Yakumo, one of the 6 heroes, steps forward and says he will work with them. The girls are floored. Even with Maguru explaining there is a reason for this, they cannot believe it. Terumi, the archer, explains that Nomi being under Kawasaki's spell is a massive problem. Trust me, this is serious. The protagonist asks if there is any way to break the magic. Sadly, the answer is a hard no. But he has a plan. He reveals that the key to solving this whole mess is Maguru himself. After all, Maguru has replication magic. Being unemployed means he has 0 restrictions on what he can use. However, Maguru cannot just copy their crest power. To undo a spell, he has to fully grasp the entire mechanism behind it. Tsurumi explains that normally, only the person who casts the hypnosis can actually cancel the magic. Their only real move? They have to find a way to overwrite her magic with their own. Maguru cannot do that without the blueprint. They have to figure out exactly how the spell functions first. The archer smirks. He has not spent hundreds of years doing nothing. He actually knows how to do this. He pulls out photos of Kawasaki's mark. Maguru is impressed by the insane amount of research the hero has. With all this new data and detail, Izumi finally feels like they have a real fighting chance. 3 hours of intense study later, and he's done it. He finally understands how the spell works. He knows the only way to be sure is a test, but the uncertainty of failure terrifies him. Since this is mind magic, an error could be fatal. That's when Nomi's friends step up. Showing incredible courage, they ask Maguru to test the spell on them. Even Kana steps forward to help. Terumi knows a clash with Kawasaki is inevitable. They cannot afford to go in without their healer. Maguru realizes he will need his sister's strength when it's time to finally face off against that sorceress. He gives the order, everyone get ready. The plan starts right now, no more waiting around. Seeing the hypnosis mechanism is surprisingly simple, Maguru decides it is time to try it on one of them. The spell works by dropping the target's consciousness through the mana circuit, planting a suggestion to serve. Hikari panics and collapses in pain. Trust me, you and I just saw this plan go south. Alright, stick with me because our main character just realized he seriously messed up his latest spell. Even though he knows the theory by heart, his execution is way off, but he's confident that practice makes perfect. Hikari isn't backing down though, promising to endure the pain until he finally gets it right. Then Sakura steps up, wanting to be the next test subject. Maguru sees their resolve and decides to keep going. An hour later, Maguru tries again, focusing all his energy on the command for her to become his servant. Finally, the spell works on the white-haired girl, Kana. She's actually thrilled since she always believed in her brother. Once it's done, Maguru releases the bind and sets her free. With the spell mastered, he's ready to head out and save Numi from her magical trance. Over in Shinjuku, the hypnotized hunters are already moving toward another dungeon. Kawasaki watches them closely, wondering if there's any more valuable loot to grab. Suddenly, a spell flies her way, and Nomi loyally steps in to shield her. The spell hits her shield, and Maguru finally reveals himself as the caster. Kawasaki just smiles, glad Maguru Akabani finally showed up. She asks if he's alone and looking for some revenge, but it's actually a clever decoy. Izumi and the group had this whole trap planned out from the start. Now pay attention, because the plan is to use a clone as a distraction while he overwrote the magic on Noi. Saving her matters way more than any revenge. He can't afford to fail now. While the girl is distracted by the clone, he casts the spell to reverse the control. The magic hits his friend, but then it just vanishes into thin air. In that split second, Kawasaki realizes the real Maguru has been hiding in the shadows the whole time. Maguru tells Tsurumi his magic fizzled out before it could even touch Nozomi. No time to think. Maguru, Tsurumi, and the archer draw weapons and get ready to fight. Kawasaki notices the archer helping him, but she doesn't care why he's chosen to stand by Izumi's side. She warns Maguru he's being played, claiming Sarayumi actually regretted everything he'd done. The archer just tells Maguru to block her out. She's just trying to tear them apart. Kawasaki orders her pawns to kill everyone, but Maguru dodges their spells with ease. Suddenly, a hunter lunges with a sword, and he barely manages a last-second block. He's hesitating. It's hard to fight back when these people are just being controlled. Okay, let's be real. It's about to get way worse now that Nomi's attacking. He blocks her blade and screams for her to wake up, desperately trying to snap her out of it. He begs her to listen, but Tsurumi warns that she can't hear him. Kawasaki finds this hilarious. Tsurumi says they'll fix the hypnosis later and focus on the servants. He says this will be easy. Nomi is the real problem. She's brainwashed, but she still knows exactly how Maguru fights. As blades clash, a sudden fireball comes screaming toward him. Maguru ducks, but Nomi circles around for a lethal slash at Izumi. His team panics, and the archer sprints forward, taking the full force of the sword strike, meant for Meru. Meru is stunned. He can't believe Tsurumi threw himself into the fire. Tsurumi gasps that his body moved on its own, but he avoided certain death. He hopes this finally proves his loyalty before he collapses and faints. Maguru isn't taking chances and orders Kana to treat his wounds immediately. Kana's a pro. She stabilizes Tsurumi and saves his life. Maguru finally regains his cool, realizing that besides Nomi, none of these other servants are actually a threat. When a hunter lunges with his sword, Maguru shuts him down with a single, perfectly aimed kick. He plans it out if they split up, they can wipe out the weaker enemies first. His clone drops a minor hunter, and Maguru counts down. Only 3 enemies are left. The sorceress just laughs, telling him he hasn't even seen the true, adrenaline-fueled power of her servants yet. She explains that humans normally hold back their potential. Trust me, you and I are about to see something terrifying. Hypnosis removes every limit, and this fallen hunter is suddenly swelling with monstrous strength and muscle. Alright, stick with me. You and I are about to see a battle where humans aren't even human anymore. That same hunter, now sporting a massive, powerful frame, lunges at Maguru with pure, unadulterated hatred. As he blocks the strike, Maguru realizes this once frail hunter has somehow gained a terrifying amount of strength. But just as he gears up for another strike, the man starts coughing up a gross red substance. He suddenly goes limp, and every other hunter clone begins showing the exact same disturbing symptoms. Kawasaki sneers, calling them useless puppets, and points out that only Nozomi is special enough to remain standing. Maguru starts to worry, knowing the girl is hitting her limits and barely holding herself together. The mage taunts him, saying if he loves her so much, he should just hand over that mana crystal. Maguru doesn't hesitate, he refuses the deal, and vows to take her down to save his friend. The mage snaps back, telling him he clearly doesn't understand the danger he's in, and orders his execution. Right then, the servant drops her shield and charges straight for Maguru with a deadly sword slash. While defending himself, our hero wonders why his hypnosis isn't working on her at all. With no answers in sight, he stays focused on parrying his friend's relentless attacks. At one point, Nomi grabs Maguru's arm to deliver a fatal gut shot. Maguru apologizes and fires a spell directly into her face. To his shock, the spell doesn't leave a single scratch, even though at this range it should have been fatal. Now pay attention, this is the part where Maguru realizes there's a secret behind Noi's insane power. Switching tactics, he charges forward and grabs the girl's arm, testing out a theory he just had. He figures it out, an invisible barrier is blocking his magic, a classic trick from Kawasaki's playbook. Now that the mystery is finally solved, defeating her is easy. He gets close, touches her forehead, and commands her to wake up. Nomi feels the spell break, the magic dissipates, and she blackouts for just a few seconds. When she opens her eyes, she's back to her old self and tells Maguru she's okay as he carries her. She knows Maguru will explain everything later, while the sorceress stands there in absolute shock at what just happened. Tsurumi sees the plan worked and knows it's finally time to take Kawasaki down for good. Now, the team has the pink-haired warrior back on their side, wielding her sword and shield, but she suddenly collapses, dropping her weapons. Maguru explains that the spell forced her to use power way beyond her body's natural capacity. She had been pushed to her absolute breaking point, which could have caused some serious permanent damage. Maguru tells her to rest while he and Tsurumi step up to finish this fight themselves. He asks Kana to watch over Nomi while they engage the enemy, and her friends help her recover. The mage, now completely alone, stops playing around and starts taking this battle 100% seriously. Tsurumi warns Maguru to watch out for the crest. Hovering in the air, Kawasaki uses the crest of wisdom to pull magic from the environment. She's absorbing the magic flowing from the dragon's veins. Now watch this, she's draining energy from the dungeon to form a spell that's absolutely devastating. Launching a massive ball of energy, she screams that she isn't the same mage they fought before. The spell charges at them with full force, but Kana's shield barely manages to save their lives. Once the shield breaks, they're forced to retreat. Maguru quickly realizes he can't land a single attack on the sorceress. Feeling superior, she demands that he hand over the mana crystal right now. Maguru leads her away from the portal, pretending that giving it up is his only choice. She claims he should have surrendered earlier, but Maguru dares her to come and take it from him. Furious, she promises him a fate worse than death and fires a high-speed spell that he barely dodges. Her crest is way more powerful than anything they saw from Matsubara or Hidaka. As she spams more spells, Maguru explains that Kawasaki's crest actually comes with some heavy restrictions. If there isn't a dungeon nearby connected to the dragon veins, her magical power drops off a cliff. Suddenly, a dungeon portal opens up right behind her, catching the woman completely off guard. She calls it madness, but confirms her power only exists because that dungeon is right there. Dodging her magic, Maguru asks one thing: what happens to her power if that dungeon vanishes? We're about to find out. Ordinarily, Japanese hunters would need at least 20 minutes to clear a B-rank dungeon like this. But stick with me, things just got messy because Kawasaki's brainwashed hunters are pouring out of the portal. Rewind 3 hours earlier, when Maguru and Tsurumi were desperately plotting Nomi's rescue. The terrain was working against them, and Tsurumi knew it. He warned that Kawasaki's crest gave her terrifying power, but Maguru spotted a weakness. Without that dungeon active, Kawasaki would lose everything. He turned to the chief with a crazy question. Could anyone clear a B rank in 15 minutes? The chief was floored. Only A ranks could pull that off, and they were still 30 minutes away. Tsurumi realized Maguru was trying to force Kawasaki's hand. But what if she tried to run away? Maguru didn't blink. He was certain that timing their attack with the dungeon's closure would end it all. Even if she survived, getting their friend back was the priority. So, they locked in the plan and moved out. Back in the present, the hunters arrived 5 minutes late, but they still crushed that dungeon on schedule. Now, check this out. Maguru levels his blade at the sorceress, telling her it's time to feel fear. Kawasaki completely loses it. She starts panicking, frantically searching for a way out before launching one desperate spell. Pathetic. Maguru slices her weak attack right in half. She collapses, powerless, as he asks if her tantrum is over. Terrified, she starts begging. She hopes he won't hold a grudge for what happened 100 years ago. Our reincarnated hero doesn't say a word. He just walks toward her, sword in hand, looking like death. She screams for him to wait. If Tsurumi got a second chance, why shouldn't she get one too? Maguru isn't listening. He silences her forever, driving his blade straight through her back. That is 4 heroes down. Revenge complete. Nomi's friends thank Maguru for saving the person who means the most. Izumi tries to take some credit, claiming their help was a big part of the rescue. But Maguru shuts that down immediately. He didn't do this for them. He did it because Nomi is precious to him, and he was driven by his own desire to save her. As for Nomi's friends, they admit they were useless without him. They thank him again, noting how happy Nomi looks after hearing he cares. The poor girl is bright red, absolutely buzzing from his words. Then Tsurumi asks the big question. Can he keep helping? Only he and Shirishi are left on the list. Maguru gives a simple answer. If Tsurumi is offering his strength, he is going to take it. After the archer risked his life, Maguru realized he might have judged the man a bit too harshly. You and I both know he's not forgiven yet, though. Maguru admits he still doesn't know Tsurumi's ultimate fate. Maguru confesses he is just using the man for his own convenience. Tsurumi is just happy he wasn't rejected. He asks to be notified the moment they find Shirishi, and after that, Maguru, Kana, and Izumi finally head back home. Once they arrive, a worried Kana asks Nomi to stay with them. The girl hesitates, but Kana isn't taking no for an answer. She is exhausted and needs a safe place. Maguru backs his sister up. One more person in the house is not a problem, so he invites her in. Even with the warm welcome, the pink-haired girl feels totally awkward. Izumi steps in, explaining that they aren't being pushy. Nomi is badly hurt and needs Kana to heal her. Kana says it is a miracle Nomi can even move. Gently, the siblings tell her it is time to rest. Meanwhile, over in Shinjuku, Shirishi arrives at the spot where his allies fell. He wants that crystal and the killer. He begins whispering. He rants about how money, power, and love are all useless. Some things in this world just cannot be bought. To him, knowledge is the only true currency. He wants to hold all the power of a literal god. A little girl nearby asks if he is okay. The former hero looks at the child with pure malice. He grins, glad that no one else is around. Finding someone as special as her? That's a lucky break. He asks her to play. Innocently, the child invites this monster to her home. Shirishi promises he won't hurt her, but he lies. He kills her instantly, obsessing over her heart, as if it holds the secret to life and the ultimate truth of the world. He smears himself with blood. Trust me, we are in for a dark ride. Stick with me, Kana, just fully healed her friend. Once the main character realizes Nomi is fully recovered and her powers are functional, he understands the girl is someone truly special. She is glowing with happiness because she is finally ready to fight. Nomi asks Maguru if he has seen the news about that mysterious murder case. As they turn on the television to check the report, our lead gets an urgent call from his boss. The alarming message reveals that Shirishi actually entered the country just yesterday. Our hero is stunned. The boss tells him an incident is being broadcast live right now. Seeing the news of the murder, the hunter leader immediately blames Shirishi, stating it is already confirmed he is the true culprit. The protagonist asks for the enemy's location. Without a single second of hesitation, the chief sends coordinates to Maguru Izumi, who vows to find and deal with his rival immediately. He calls Tsurumi next, explaining they need to have a very urgent talk about Shirishi. The archer understands the intensity of Uzumi's feelings and tells him to stay calm, suggesting it is not too late to build a real strategy before attacking. When Tsurumi finally shows up, he warns that their chances of beating Shirishi in a fight right now are incredibly low, explaining that this ancient hero is on a level far beyond any adversary they have ever faced. Now, pay attention here. The archer asks if Maguru remembers the Shirishi from 100 years ago. A memory of Maguru Akabon from a century ago at the Sky Dungeon suddenly surfaces. In it, the hero looks obsessed after finding the Philosopher's Stone, sporting a terrifying, psychopathic gaze. Matsubara had warned him that the country founded this dungeon, telling the ancient hero not to take the loot. But Shirishi just laughed it off as a treasure hunt, questioning if his hobby really bothered anyone. Even Futaba found him strange. Tsurumi reveals they only realized his hobby involved hunting humans after Maguru died. He asks if our hero wants to hear what that ancient monster did to people, but Izumi refuses, asking why Shirashi is so strong. The archer says his power comes from his total indifference to life, including his own. He is dangerous because he fights with zero safety margin, caring about absolutely nothing. Plus, Shirishi has the Knight's Crest, which boosts his power to an even more insane level, giving him 2 sacred swords. Excalibur draws out 100% of his potential, while Ascalon keeps his body from collapsing. Tsurumi concludes that Shirishi has no weakness but his defense, and states Maguru will lose in his current state. Our hero understands this massive threat, and starts thinking of a strategy when he gets another call. It is the branch chief again. The desperate man is pleading for calm because something terrible has happened. The Hunter Association has been taken down, and he is currently being held hostage by the villain. Shirishi Hokuto grabs the cell phone right out of the chief's hand, introduces himself and demands the mana crystal, ordering the hero to bring it to the association immediately. He says he will be waiting on the rooftop. With all the hunters in the building defeated, Izumi is desperate as the enemy issues an ultimatum. Now, I know what you are thinking. 15 minutes? That is all the time he has before every hostage is executed. Apologizing to the archer, our hero says there is no time. They are going straight to the Hunter Association. Tsurumi decides to go along with them, reiterating that Maguru cannot win right now, but there is a way to avoid defeat. He then shares a plan for how they can emerge alive from this fight against the ancient hero. Meanwhile, at the Hunter Association, the villain did not expect to find someone so useful so easily. He calls the man a useful tool, but the chief snaps back, saying there is no way Shirishi gets the crystals. Even with his insane confidence and skills, Izumi is not weak enough to lose to a guy like him. Shirishi thinks everything is going perfect, but he is about to realize he is walking on thin ice. When the chief tries to threaten him, Shirishi just finds it funny and delivers a brutal kick, knocking down the leader who was putting all of his chips on our protagonist. He admits that among all the hunters he has ever seen, Maguru is in a league of his own, easily the strongest opponent of his life. 10 minutes later, the main character and his team arrive at the location exactly on time. The villain asks for the crystal, so our hero retrieves it from a portal and demands the villain release every hostage before handing it over. Trust me, you and I are about to witness the most intense showdown of this series. Do not blink. Let's see if Maguru Izumi actually hands over the crystal like his chief asks. The hero refuses, telling the chief to put his trust in the rest of his team. Shirishi demands the crystal, but Maguru just laughs and calls him a total idiot. Suddenly, magical portals erupt above the enemy, proving the team never showed up without a plan. Maguru explains that powerful spells can always be prepared way ahead of time. He lets loose a barrage of elemental magic directly onto his rival, Shirishi. Shirishi draws his blade, swearing he would never fall for such an obvious trap. Wanting to teach him a lesson, Shirishi claims offense is the only defense. Pay attention here, he starts shredding every spell, asking if that is all Maguru has. Maguru swings, but Shirishi dodges. After the miss, the hero attempts a heavy strike. An intense sword duel begins as they clash with perfect mastery. Shirishi's skill is insane, so Maguru activates his crest to create a perfect clone. Maguru declares the real fight is starting, but Shirishi just sneers back. He brags that even against two attackers, his defense makes the strategy useless. But you saw that too, right? There is a third presence in the air. Suddenly Nosumi drops from above with a strike, while Tsurumi aims a bow surging with intense, glowing mana. Tsurumi fires a volley, and several arrows actually hit their mark. Maguru follows up with a fast lunge, aiming straight for the kill. The villain deflects the blow and rips the arrows out of his body. Even with those wounds, Shirishi is moving just as fast as before. It gets worse, his swords possess a terrifying, near-instant healing ability. Maguru realizes Shirishi's mana is exploding, awakening a hidden, massive power. Shirishi is now unleashed, no longer restricted by his 300-second limit. He vows to use every ounce of his strength in this combat. Watch this, Shirishi fires a massive fireball, but Maguru finds it totally predictable. He dodges without any trouble.